Well, good evening. We've suddenly become much more formal because we're on TV. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mike Zullis. I'm chair of the school committee. And we've gathered today to show our respect and our admiration and our gratitude for the Milton Public School employees who are retiring this year. And each of our retirees have given a great gift to this community. They have helped to educate our children. And over several years, in many cases many, many years, and in many different roles, they have had a positive impact on our town and on our schools and most importantly, on our children. Now, everyone knows that you don't go into education or work in a school district to make money. I think one of the reasons you do is to make a difference in children's lives. And each of you has made a difference in children's lives. You've taught them that they can accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. You've taught them that they could be whatever they want to be in the world. And for that, we owe you our gratitude. When thinking about this event and about showing our appreciation for all your efforts, I was reminded of a quote from the American novelist John Steinbeck, and I'm going to read this so I repeat it accurately. Steinbeck said, "I have come to believe that a great teacher is a great artist, and that there are as few as there are any other great artists. Teaching might even be the greatest of the arts, since the medium is the human mind and spirit." And I think each of you who we honor tonight is a great artist in your profession. And each of you has made a lasting impact and a difference in the lives of the children in our community. And for that, we all owe you a great debt of gratitude. So, thank you. So now, I've only just met most of you, but I know a few things about each of you. And so we're going to individually give you a few words and give you a token of our appreciation. So first, it is Elaine Lovett. Elaine, if you could just stand up, please. Elaine began her career at Pierce in 1997, and she was a teacher in home economics and remained there until 1996. So that was the first 19 or so years, I guess. After leaving the Milton Public Schools for a short time, Elaine returned in 2007 to continue her career as a family and consumer sciences teacher at the high school until her retirement in January 2015. We have a quote from Dr. Noreen Diamond Burnett. "Elaine involved her students in community-based projects every year. This year, she worked collaboratively with the faculty in the Family and Consumer Sciences Department and with Cradles to Crayons to focus on early literacy and making healthy choices for the 4 to 6-year-olds. The program was very successful for both the high school students and for Cradles to Crayons." Principal Jett has referred to Mrs. Lovett as a very kind-hearted, student-focused educator who gave it her all. Her approachable demeanor left her well-liked by her students and peers. Elaine, we thank you for your many years of service to the Milton Public Schools, and we wish you great enjoyment in your retirement, and we have a little bit of a token of our appreciation. Thank you, Elaine. Congratulations. Next is Mary Lou Bradley. Mary Lou first became a school nurse in August 1999 for the Tucker School. She remained at Tucker throughout her career and has been a devoted and an integral part of the Tucker team. Over the years, Mary Lou has been a source of comfort to many students, parents, and guardians, and staff members. Just recently, this was quite an achievement. Just recently, Mary Lou was awarded the Norfolk County Teachers Association 2015 Honor and Service Award to recognize her success. Head nurse Margaret Gibbons was sorry to miss this event tonight, but Margaret gave us the following. "Mary Lou Bradley, 16 years as a school nurse at the Tucker School, has given more kindness than anyone could ever measure. Of course, her nursing skills are impeccable, and her knowledge of health concerns is without equal, all benefiting the students, staff, and families of the Tucker community. However, I am always impressed with her calm, reassuring kindness when I have visited her health room. Mary Lou is a special person who gives all her attention to each student who presents at her door. Each child feels so important and knows that Mrs. Bradley has helped them. They matter. Mary Lou, you are special, and I will miss you very much. That from head nurse Margaret Gibbons. Mary Lou, thank you for all your efforts, and we'd like to thank you for your dedication over the years. Next, we have Mary Ellen Burke. Mary Ellen began her career with the Milton Public Schools as an instructional aide in 1984. In 1986, she was hired as a long-term substitute, which led to her permanent full-time career at the Collycott School. Throughout her career at Collycott, Mary Ellen impacted the lives of many students and families and was a mentor for many new teachers. In addition to her outstanding teaching career, Mrs. Burke also took on the role of assistant principal for Collycott for several years, and at one point shared the role at Collycott with Janet Sheehan, our assistant superintendent for curriculum and human resources. Also, when the district reached out to Mary Ellen to work as a reading specialist for primary grades, she accepted the position and worked tirelessly to support our youngest readers. According to Superintendent Gormley, Mrs. Burke is as gifted a first-grade teacher as she has ever met. Mary Ellen, thank you for your years of dedication to our children, to the parents and guardians, and to the staff at Collycott. We know that you enrich the lives of many students. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Go ahead. Go ahead. Next, we have Ludmila Nivarushkin. There she is. Madame Nivarushkin began her career with the Milton Public Schools in 1993 as a French teacher at the Cunningham Elementary School. Superintendent Mary Gormley was the principal of Cunningham at the time and is proud to say that she hired Ludmila. After her time at the Cunningham, Madame Nivarushkin transferred to Pierce Middle School and has remained there as a French teacher since. Throughout her career at the Pierce Middle School, Ludmila has influenced the lives of countless students. Dr. Karen Spaulding has said, Madame Nivarushkin is a legend among her students. Her strength and genuine care and concern for her students has benefited many. Madame Nivarushkin, we wish you many years of health and happiness in retirement, and thank you for all you've done for the children of our schools. I think that's the last one. Yeah, that's the last one. So again, thank you all for everything that you've done for the school system, and thank you for attending tonight. We wish you well. We'll surely see you around town, and we wish you the best. Thank you all for all you've done. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 24th meeting of the Milton School Committee. Before we get started, if you could all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First, the agenda for this evening. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any suggested changes to the agenda? All right.
Chair,
yes, sir.
I'd like to request that that item 5C under the chairman's report be deferred to our next meeting. I wasn't aware that was going to be on the agenda, and I have a couple of ideas about possible appointees, and I see you had some ideas as well.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so we will defer that to the I believe it's July 8th is our next meeting. All right, so item C is off the agenda for this evening. Anything else? All right, without objection. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, I think it's covered.
Okay, great. All right, without objection, the agenda is approved. And now citizen speak. I believe we have a citizen, Maura Downs, our secretary, is unable to be here, but I believe we have someone for citizen speak. Would you mind bringing the piece of paper up? I think I know who you are, but just for our official records. Thank you. We have one citizen for citizen speak, Meg Castor.
Take it out.
Yeah. I'm Meg Castor. I'm from the Milton Foundation for Education Board, and I'm here tonight just to give you a summary of our year and to thank you and our community for all of the support that you've extended during this school year. It's been an incredible year for the Milton Foundation, as well as, I hope, our schools and our community. We kicked off the year with our annual appeal, which funds the competitive teacher grant program. We've had some stellar grants that have gone into the school system based on the creativity and the ingenuity of our teachers. We followed that up with Monster Dash on October 28th of this year, where we had an all-time number of runners. We had 1,000 runners compete in that race, which is run in memory of Sam Cochillo. It was a fabulous day, enjoyed by young and old, and really to watch our community come out and participate in that was a very moving experience. And then as a result, there was $28,000 raised from that race that went directly into science education for our elementary schools. We followed that up with our Milton Stars event, which honors our largest donors, where we had Dr. Erica Ebel speak from scientists. This year we implemented that program. We did a full-scale implementation in the 5th grade of our elementary schools. We furthered the year with our celebration event, where we raised $150,000 of STEAM funding. That event was chaired by Karen Viveros and Marianne Rull. You know, we have our Star Lab, Dr. Spalding. I almost equate your name with the Star Lab, and some just other wonderful programs that are going to be implemented in the Milton Public Schools. Our final event was the Teacher of the Year, where we pay tribute and honor to the people who enable our children to soar. And it was a wonderful evening where people came together to do just that, to take a moment and think about those people who are so influential to our children. We close out the year with 2 fundraising sort of events. Our Jeep raffle, which will be pulled at 9:20 on Saturday evening, just before the fireworks go off at We Are Milton. We still have tickets available. We are only selling 500 tickets, so the odds are incredibly good. As I've kind of participated in the selling of these tickets, some of it's some sporting events, and I think your odds are much better of winning $20,000 of this Jeep than perhaps some scholarship things that might be going on, but I won't say that. And so if anyone's still interested in that, you can contact me or our esteemed chair, Will Corman. It's jeepraffle2015@gmail.com. And also, lastly, our Red Apple program. Teacher of the Year is sort of this evening to celebrate our teachers. Red Apple is a way to honor them every day. And with a $25 donation by an individual or a $50 donation by a class, the teacher will receive a Red Apple certificate and a notation from parents who have donated in their honor. So it's just another way to honor the faculty and staff of the Milton Public Schools. So I thank you so much for all the support that you have extended to the Milton Foundation and our community at large, and I thank you for allowing me to speak this evening.
Thank you. May I say something?
Yes, please.
I want to, on behalf of the children and the teachers, recognize Meg Castor. This is one tireless Milton Public School parent who's going to continue on the board, but has served the presidency unbelievably. And I don't think that the 4,000 children or their parents or the teachers know that this partnership with the MFE is a daily conversation. So I said to Meg Castor, I'll continue to ring you every day, and if there isn't an email, and anyone who has done fundraising, but you can talk about fundraising, but the work of the MFE is from the heart and the hands and the labor of the parents and citizens who work on the MFE, and you have given unbelievable leadership this year. You have been an unbelievable president of the MFE, and I want to thank you and recognize you.
Well, it goes without saying that the MFE is such a vital force in our community and so critical to what we do, and the partnership that we have with the MFE has been just an outstanding component to what we've been able to do over the last few years, so we certainly thank you for that, Meg.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Meg. Ms. Conley, Michelle Conley wants to speak.
Oh, we have another citizen speak. Michelle?
Thank you.
Michelle Connolly.
Good evening. Make sure I get this right. My name is Michelle Connolly, and I am the chairperson of the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. We just held our elections, and it's great because we have 9 members returning, and we have 3 new members, so it's exciting, and we're going to meet on July 7th to review our district priorities. Many of them are the same, and I'm aware that many of you are being updated on what those are. So I would like to welcome all of you because I understand there's 3 new members of the board and some changes. Chairman Zulus and Becky, I believe that you're vice chair this year, so welcome. And I'd also like to thank Leroy Walker for all the work he's done with the special education group, as well as Mary Kelly and Mary Gormley. So thank you very much. It's been quite a year, a lot of successes. I'd also like to say that Karen Clasby, with her retirement, we wish her well, and I hope it's restful, because that type of job, I think you need a lot of rest afterwards. And we welcome Tracy Grandow as the new administrator of pupil personnel. So, like I said, a lot of positives this last year. I think we worked very well together. We streamlined a lot of communications. We were able to voice parent concerns in the district and identify certain areas that we believe we could all do better in helping our children in the district with special needs. As we move forward, we're looking for more timelines. There's been many things like the social emotional curriculum. Thank you very much for extending the invitation for us to participate. So I'll be following up with a letter on some of these items I'm addressing. But we identified a CPAC member to serve on that committee. Within that meeting in April, we had the Inclusion Task Force idea, which is a fabulous idea. And so we're looking for some more information on that and who would be included on that. We ourselves have suggestions. The district-wide SPED review, Mary, you did email me this morning, so we'll be talking about that tomorrow. And in particular, we're eager for certain issues that we've identified, such as extended school year, to take precedent right now. We've been working on this issue for several years. This past year, we've been working with the district directly on trying to figure out compliance issues. What is the criteria to determine whether these children will receive such services? And it's a major concern. We still believe, and we have sought opinions ourselves, that it is out of compliance, and that the criteria, needs to be revamped. And unfortunately, this summer, we have several families approaching us where their children are not receiving such services. So I ask that we can really take a look at that ASAP. So with that being said, thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you for your concern and for your work with our organization. I believe working together, we're gonna make a lot of changes for all students, not just students with special needs. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. And just to point out, we do have tentatively on our agenda for the next meeting a review of some of these issues. So we'll be discussing those most likely on July. I can't remember now if it's the 8th or the 9th, but it's the Wednesday of that week. So that'll be at our next meeting. So thank you, Michelle. Without any more citizens speak, I don't believe there's anyone else. So we will move on to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Gorman.
Thank you, Chairman Zulus. We're very excited tonight. After each athletic season, the school committee asks to recognize our athletic teams who have made tournament play. And with us tonight, we have several of those teams. And I can't speak for the school committee, they'll speak for themselves, but the school system, the community, and I couldn't be more proud. And I think it's a testimony to the student athletes at Milton High School to look out. Some of them may have already graduated, and it's the night before the last day of school. Close your eyes. Would have you come to be recognized the night before the last day of school? So big applause for all the student athletes. So first, I'd like to have join us at the table Massachusetts Division II State Rugby Championship team of student athletes. And with them tonight are their coaches, Joe Dolan, Ned Cochran, and if I'm missing somebody, Joe and Ned, you'll recognize them. And Mr. Cochran, if you could take that mic on the end and move it over, then you'll have two mics. You'll have a portable mic and that mic right on the table. Thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dolan and Mr. Cochran and these student athletes.
Thank you, Superintendent Gormley. Thanks for having us tonight.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So here's some of our rugby players from our 2015 state championship team. We're very, very proud of them. We had a successful season. This is our second state championship in 3 years. So in 3 years, we've only lost one game, which was in the state championship again against Brookline. The last play of the game we lost. So we've had a strong 3 years. So the town of Milton has supported us. We're very thankful to the school committee, the administration, the custodians, the parents. The boosters have been tremendous. We've got a great bunch of student athletes behind me here. We've got a strong coaching staff. So I couldn't be more proud of these kids. Every year it just gets a little bit more exciting, and we'd just like to thank the town of Milton and the community for everything you do for us, and we try to leave it all out in the rugby field for you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again, and you know, 5 years ago, some of you went on a little bit of a limb to try and recognize and help us grow this program. We started the first year with, I think we had 21 kids who played at least one game. I think we averaged about 12 at practice, and 18 played more than one game. This year we had 52, including 12 freshmen. No one misses practice, because if you miss practice, you don't play in the games. We were undefeated, with the exception of one JV game where we played one of the best Division I teams in the state and lost to them in a close game. So our captain for this year was Matt McCarthy, who is going on next year to St. Bonaventure with a rugby scholarship. Colleges are now recognizing rugby more and more as an important part of their athletic programs. Our captain for next year is Myron Stovall, who will be a senior. and I just turned it to each of them to say a couple of words. We have a number of others who are going on to play college rugby, several at UMass, and right now, 5 kids from the Milton High rugby team are playing at UMass and are doing well. So this is a starting point for the opportunity to participate in college athletics at a good level.
First off, I'd just like to say thank you again to the school committee and all the administration for all the support we've had over the last couple of years. I started playing rugby sophomore year and kind of just picked it up to keep in shape for football. Never knew that I'd fall in love with it the way I did. And coming out for this year, I really knew there was something special about our team. We had a couple 6 a.m. practices before the season started to kind of get into it, and that's when I really saw that we were going to be a successful team. I never would have expected to have a perfect season like we did, but we ended up doing it. We came out to practice every day, worked hard. Everybody that you see here, it was a very rare thing to see anybody missing a practice. So that's something that really speaks for our team. It's a big deal when you have 54 kids that'll come out to every single practice, 5 days a week, go to games, get on a bus for, 2.5 hours to Wilbraham Munson just to play in a rugby game. So I think that really speaks to our team and speaks to the people that we have playing for us. And I'd just like to say thank you again to the school committee for everything you've done.
I'd like to say thank you as well. Reason why I started playing rugby is one of the seniors that played rugby was like, you're playing rugby or you don't have a choice. So I just decided to play because I was a little nervous. So I came to practice the first day and I was like, oh, this is weird. Why are we passing the ball backwards, you know? Then I played a couple games, started liking it. Then I started really liking it and then I liked it better than football. Didn't even want to play football the next year. Just wanted to train for rugby and now I'm captain, so.
That's great.
Perfect job, Emily.
Wonderful.
So, any other players want to say something? Anything special from Cookie? Cookie?
So as he said, I'm Cookie. I've learned a couple things from rugby. You know, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of dedication into it, and it's a lot of hard work. But thanks to these wonderful coaches we have, we got through it, and thank you.
Mr. Kennedy?
I'm Dara Kennedy. It's been an honor to play here since my freshman year, even though I broke my foot after the captain broke it on my first preseason practice. But it's been an honor to be coached by amazing coaches, and with the thanks of you all helping us turn it from a club to a sport. And just look at how far we've gotten. It's been amazing. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, we'll take a few questions. We don't want to take up your whole night. Any
Any of the members? Kristen?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I remember 5 years ago when Mr. Corcoran came. Joe, you weren't with us on this yet, were you? You were here 5 years? Okay, sorry. Anyway, when you both came and talked about making this from a club to a team, and both know how much I support the athletic programs, but I have to say that I was one of the ones who said, oh, I don't know, can we really support this? And I'm glad to say that I was wrong. I'm really glad that the rugby team has done as well as it has, and I'm so impressed with you guys for doing this. And, Ned, as a volunteer who I've known forever doing volunteer things, it's really impressive that you guys have stayed with this and expanded it the way that you have.
Thank you very much.
So I appreciate it. Thanks.
It's a great bunch of guys, it really is. And that, if they weren't such a nice bunch of gentlemen, we wouldn't be winning the way we were. And a lot of respect, and so I give a lot of credit to the student athletes in a lot of different ways.
I would make one other comment, and Joe has consistently received comments from parents and coaches of other teams to how we host them when they come here. There's a tradition in rugby that you don't just get on the bus and go home. You get together, you socialize, you spend time with the other team, you get to know the other team. It's an important tradition worldwide in the sport of rugby. And with the help of parents, Erica Donahue, Mrs. Kennedy, and others, we serve food after every game for the other team. That is unusual in high school athletics, but it's something that every other team has recognized. It's something that I think brings credit on the school, on the program, particularly on Joe, who has implemented what his experience, my experience have been through our years of rugby down to this level, and introduced the broader elements of the game of rugby and the sport of rugby, what that means from a sportsmanship perspective.
Mr. Walker.
So first to the coaches, I think we're incredibly impressed with how far this program has come and over such a short period of time. So we're very proud of that. You should be very proud of that. But the thing that's even more apparent, and I think the contribution that is even more significant, is that it's clear that in addition to building championship teams and strong athletes, you're building strong young men who will be better citizens of the world for the experience that they've had with you and with this team. In the long run, that's an even more important contribution that you've made. So I was there at the beginning. I went to one of the early fundraisers. I still have a shirt that I'm able to wear to each of the championship games. So that brings me to the championship games. So I was there last year, and that was a tough one. It was a real battle. It was back and forth. And, you know, there was a moment close to the end of the game where I thought we had it, and then we didn't. So it was a tough one. I was back this year, and the first half was a slow start. And there was a Brookline parent that was particularly loud and particularly obnoxious. And I'm saying to myself, would someone please shut him up? But nobody had to do that because you know what? You guys shut him up. And by the end of the first half and all throughout the second half, he was quiet as a mouse. And that's because you guys dominated. So what a game. I'm proud of all of you.
Thank you.
So the only thing I'll say is that 30 years ago, I was a very mediocre prop for a small Division III college, and I still remember, though, the pain that was inflicted on me by schools like UMass and St. Bonaventure. So I wish you all well. To those of you who are going to UMass and St. Bonaventure, good luck in inflicting pain on my Division III brethren going forward.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Next, we'd like to invite up Paula Jamian, who's going to represent, I believe, boys and girls tennis. Coach Jamian, also retired Milton High School math teacher. So my instructions are that you're going to take over both roles for Liz Mercer and yourself. Thank you.
That is correct. Thank you very much. Hi, girls. How are you? This is a brief comment from Liz Mercer. Good evening. I want to thank you for honoring the Milton High School teams who qualified for spring tournaments. I'm very sorry that I'm unable to be here tonight as is my assistant, Debbie Higgins. And she was on to say she wants to express her appreciation for me for filling in for her, which is very nice. For 2.5 months, the team practiced hard, played matches, but making the tournament was not even in our thoughts. However, at the last several matches were played, we began to realize that it was a definite possibility. Our record was 6-6 when we played Braintree on May 21st. We beat them, making our record 7-6. In the final week of the matches, even though we lost twice, we beat Braintree again. With a final record of 8-8, we made the tournament, much to everyone's excitement and happiness. With Olivia Johnson, Maddie Hoy, as co-captains. The varsity played hard against Falmouth in the first round. We lost, but Debbie and I were very proud of everyone. 23-member team, varsity and junior varsity, was a very cohesive group of girls, and the remaining 16 have a good start towards next year's season. Again, thank you for your recognition. Sincerely, Liz Mercer, Coach. Captains, would you like to say a word?
I would have to say this season was the best out of all my 4 years being here. The team just really came together this year, and it was just a nice group of girls, and I was happy enough to play with them for my last year.
I agree. I think that this year was the best out of all of our 4 years, and both Olivia and I loved to watch both the JV and the varsity grow from the beginning of the season. We started off a little bit worried, but as the season progressed and we got more and more confident on the court, it was really exciting to see us get to tournament.
Would any of the other ladies like to say anything? New captain, captain-elect?
I'm just excited for next year to see all the new girls and watch them grow. I'm going to grow too as captain, so new leadership will be nice.
I know how hard it is to win in the Bay State League, girls. Congratulations. I know it was a tough season. You did a great job, so congratulations to all of you.
I think Ms. Varela has a comment.
Hi, my name's Sheila Varela, and I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Walker said to about the rugby team, that my daughter was one of the freshman JV players on tennis this year, and she reiterated over and over again how wonderful all the seniors and the varsity players were to the new young JV players, and what great leadership and support you showed to them, and that overall, you know, even though you're all very good tennis players, you're just wonderful, smart, young women, and that's even more important. So you should be really proud of the leadership skills that you show and the kindness to underclassmen, and I want to thank you for that.
Coach, would you, I missed with the rugby, would you have these student athletes introduce themselves?
Absolutely.
So the school committee connects their names
Olivia?
with their faces?
Hi, I'm Olivia Johnson.
Elise Crawford,
Michaela Jackson.
Maddie Hoy,
Christy Chan, Lisa Yan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Patty, would you hold on for just a moment, please, while the boys come up? Thank you. Thanks, girls. I'd like to introduce the men's tennis team. I asked Maddie to stay here just for a moment. Maddie and Sean Ning Park won the second annual mixed doubles tournament this past week. So I want to congratulate both of you. Is this your second year in a row you won it? No. No. Sean, 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
He can't remember that far back. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you very much. There's an old saying in tennis that depth is king. Throughout the season, the boys' tennis team, the men's tennis team, has been able to rely on solid contributions from a number of players. The team had strength at the top, strong senior leadership, tri-captains who led by example on a daily basis. And down the line, up and down the line, they were a consistent group of boys working hard all the time. This all resulted in a strong push to make this year's MIAA state tennis tournament. Early on in the season, we struggled quite a bit, and over April vacation, the boys worked really hard, and a lot of things fell into place. especially at doubles, first doubles and second doubles. The doubles teams demonstrated consistent improvement by mid-season. And by the middle of the year, we were going strong. We hit an amazing 6-game winning streak, slightly interrupted by a little stumble against Walpole, where we lost a heartbreaker 3-2. But the boys picked themselves up and continued that winning streak to the end. Throughout the entire season, we always focused on positives. They demonstrated excellent sportsmanship. They were always humble in victory and gracious in defeat. In addition, they have represented Milton High School with dignity and class. And although we lost our first round of the tournament to a very strong Sharon team, this group of young men will always be remembered, will always remember the wonderful journey that got them to the States rather than their disappointing loss. And it will be occasions like this evening where the school committee, with the school committee's recognition, that will reinforce upon them that it's the camaraderie and the journey that they will cherish forever. Thank you very much for inviting us this evening. And now I'd like the boys to introduce themselves and maybe say a few words if they'd like. Tri-captain.
Hello, I'm Christian Jamal, senior tri-captain, and I'd just like to thank Coach Paul Jamian. He's one of the few coaches at Milton High School that does it all by himself. So thank you for these past 4 years, Coach.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sean. I'm also a tri-captain, and I've also been on the team for 4 years. And I would also like to thank Coach for being a great coach. And I'm going to Northeastern next year.
I am Chris Chinman. I'm a senior tri-captain. And I would like to thank Coach as well and just say that I'm proud of this team this year, I guess.
Hello, I'm Michael Gates. I was first singles this year. I'd like to thank Coach, and yeah, good job, guys.
I'm Matthew Wong. I'm a senior, and I'd like to thank Coach for these past 4 years of tennis, as I've really enjoyed my time here at Milton High School and as a tennis player here.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Chan. I'm a freshman. I played doubles, and thanks, Coach.
Hi, I'm Kevin Huang. I'm a sophomore, and I play doubles.
Hi, I'm Michael Wyatt. I'm a junior. This is my second year on the team, and I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to next year. Thank you, Coach, for a great season.
Thank you, young man. Good job.
Any questions from the members?
Again, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Paul. Next, we'd like to invite up Chuck Ajamian, who's going to represent Tom Shaw with the boys and the girls outdoor track teams. Thank you, Chuck.
Oh, boy. First, I'll talk about Hannah. I've seen Hannah run for 4 years, Hannah? Yeah, and Hannah puts every ounce of effort she has into everything she does. Every practice, from the fall, the winter, and the spring. And if you want to see a student athlete, this is Hannah right here. I have not coached her, but I've witnessed as a coach, I've witnessed the effort she puts in. And I just am amazed at all the effort she puts in.
This was probably the best track season in my 4 years at high school. We finished with a 4-1 record, which is the first time we've had a winning record in my 4 years. And we also finished third at the state meet, and it was a really successful season.
Anybody have any questions for Hannah? There you go.
Ms. Padera.
Hannah, what events do you do?
I did /2 mile.
Oh, distance running, my favorite. And so you said you guys placed third in the state?
Yeah.
And How many teams were there, do you know?
24,
I
right?
think it was 32.
Wow. 32 teams. I mean, congratulations, because I know you guys have quite and did you say you were a senior?
Yeah.
So you have quite the distance group right now, and I hear some kind of younger kids coming up, so that's a good thing if they're losing you. But congratulations, I know distance is a tough event to do.
Thank you.
Are you going off to college and hopefully running somewhere after this?
I'm going to Boston College.
There you go. What a perfect place. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dr. Donahue. So I have several comments, and I'll direct them to both the men's team preemptively and the women's team. Track and field has always had a special place in my heart for two reasons. One, it's an individual sport, yet it's a team sport, and I think there's a lot to be learned there. And as we've heard, from numerous teams that have come before you, the emphasis on sportsmanship and teamsmanship that is sort of runs through the Milton Athletics program, really you can sort of see it come to fruition in both the team aspect and the personal aspect. It also affords you the chance to both challenge yourself as an individual and as a teammate, which is important in life in general. And the second reason that I feel very sort of close to track and field is that it's such a beautiful thing to watch. It's such a purely athletic sport that you're simply out there seeing who can run the fastest, who can throw the farthest, who can jump the highest. It's a tremendously pure form of athletics, and I hope that you all take that with you as you grow and you mature and you move on in life, and you take that athleticism with you and continue to be active, to be an active person. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Coach.
It's another,
Thank you, Hannah. Oh,
I think the boys.
yeah, the boys.
Oh, excuse me.
Now I have the pleasure of these gentlemen here. As a season, we were second in the Division II relays. We were fourth in the Division III state. But these gentlemen here are extraordinary. And there's one missing, David Perkins. Right here we have Kobe Osesi, David Perkins, and Ludwig Frederick. And we're missing Derek Perkins. And these guys are one of the top relay teams in the state. We lost by .03 in the all-state meet. I can show you the film for the New England meet that we had second to the final leg, but we didn't get it around. We should have gone to the Nationals, but it came together so quick that funding was difficult to get. But next year we are planning, this team is one of the best in the country. We're planning going to the Indo Nationals, the Penn Relays, and the National Meet. They will contend for a title next year. They're all back, and they will contend for a national title, and they're that good. They need publicity because they are that good. They really are. Unfortunately, I'm going to turn it over to them because then you're going to hear how good they are. I'm warning you.
I'm Kobe. I just want to say thank you to my coach for pushing us every single day after school, even though we were in pain. And it was a crazy season. We broke a lot of records, and I hope we could break more next year. Our own record.
A long time. They broke the 4x1 record 3 times. This stood for many years, and they broke the 4x2 record that stood for 10 years.
I like the sound. Yeah. I'm David Perkins, senior captain, and looking back on this season, I'll call it an overall success. This is me, my brothers, and Ludwig's first year doing track, and to go as far as we did was a real accomplishment, it being our first year and everything. So having all of us return next year, it's kind of like a bright future for us, and there's a lot of untapped potential. No ceiling to what we can do. That's really it.
That's great.
I'm Ludwig Frederick, and like David said, senior captain.
And all ticking right now.
And looking back, I say it was a really good season. We did it on sheer talent and with hard work. I think we can go further. And yeah, that's it, I guess.
Any questions?
I think Mr. Walker.
So, Coach, in business, part of the advice I give to managers is that when you have high potential employees, that's a very different managerial challenge than managing other types of employees. And I would say to you, it looks like you've got your hands full with these three, or four.
Sure do.
But I like it. I like the confidence. You got to depend on him to help you channel that. But if you guys are breaking records already, I'm pretty excited about what the future holds. So who's the fourth member?
David's twin brother, Derek, who runs Anchor. And he's actually at Bryant College right now doing a seminar for business.
Great. Well, congratulations, guys.
Israel?
Yep. I just want a clarification if you're all going to be seniors next year, number one. And number two, since you're such a cohesive, group already, do you have a special training regiment you'll be doing over the summer to stay as in shape, I guess, and talented as you are?
All right, so me, my brother Derek, and Ludwig Frederick, we're all seniors next year. And Kobe Osazi, he's going to be a junior next year. And as for our workout regimen, we're going to put in some work, of course. Yeah, I'm just going to put it at that.
Okay.
They have a workout regimen, and they'll be fighting me tooth and nail, but yes, they do.
Ms. Padera?
I'd just like to point out, I think you see the difference between the sprinter and the distance runner. We have a perfect example right here, right, Hannah? But I'm curious, you said you broke this record, so let's hear the times.
You guys know your time?
All right, so the outdoor 4x1 record, I want to say 42.
No, you didn't say the previous one, and then what we did.
The previous one, what's the previous one?
43. 43 flat.
Yeah.
And then you ran 42.8.
You ran
And
42.
you lost the state title to a team that ran 42, what? 7.7.
Wow.
So that's why we lost.
And the 4x2?
4x1. 4x2, we ran 131.9 in the Division 3 relays.
Okay, and so you said that the student that's not here, he's the anchor?
He's the anchor.
Who's
the anchor.
Who's the starting leg then?
Kobe.
I
It goes
could have
Kobe to
guessed it.
David.
It was like this, and my brother.
That's all right. It's perfect. Good job. I look forward to catching this relay next year, because now that I know it's out there, I've got to come by and see that.
You do. I mean, this year, it came, again, you guys running, it came together so fast. Then we saw the teams. I got a text on Saturday, what time, around 4 o'clock? Chuck, we should have gone to the national relays. We could have run. Because the time was really 42.5, which we could have run.
Yeah.
But it came together so quickly that I kept on telling them, wait until next year. You'll get another year of experience, and you'll be able to contend for a national title right across the board.
May I, a little secret, Chairman Zulus and the viewing public, for these gentlemen, it did come together very quickly in the end, and the person who wanted to take them to the Carolinas and wanted to be their chaperone was their principal. And so he's committed next year. He was there because he had a friend who was competing, and he believes that you'll be there next year, and he is committed to go with you as one of your chaperones.
Mr. Jett was incredibly supportive. And I did email him back and forth, and I said, I appreciate it, but it's so fast and so quick. But I kept on saying patience, because next year is going to be an incredible year as long as everything goes together.
So, Coach, is there a funding issue with respect to participating in some of these national meets?
These events are, South Carolina, and New York City, and Penn. So when I've gone in the past before, we will get the word out. We'll fundraise, and we'll try to get the word out. Again, this was so fast that there was no time to do it.
Okay.
And again, they're so young that I wasn't, if they were seniors, I would have driven them myself.
Mhm.
But I have patience, and I know that they can contend next year. I know they can.
Great. Thank you, Coach. Thank you,
Thank you.
both teams.
Very briefly, from our crew team, Coach Bill Hamill is away on vacation and not able to be here. He wants the public to know the crew team won the MPSRA, Mass Public School Rowing Association Championship, or the state championships for the boys 4-man boats event. According to Coach Hamill specifically, they won the Team Points Cup in the first varsity, 4+ Cup, and the silver medaled in boats V1, V3, V4, and Novice 4 at the states. Now, if you want to be the school committee member who can speak to that sport next year, you can go on recreation crew this summer and be able to share that next year. And in closing, baseball Division II South Sectional, Coach Jimmy Moonen sends this. According to the coach, the team made it to the state tournament and lost to Nauset in the extra innings. Senior player Jason Turner and junior Colin Rooney were named Patriot Ledger All-Scholastics just yesterday. The baseball team was unable to attend since they are playing a Summer League Legion baseball game tonight, and about half of the players are on that team, but they wanted to convey their thanks to the school committee for wanting to recognize them. Thank you very much, school committee members. Go on.
Please.
Next, I'd like to invite up, again, this is the culmination of a tremendous amount of hard work on the part of students and teachers and staff, but our new data specialist, Vivu, would you join us at the table to form, I believe we've recognized you before, but join us at the table, and also joining the team, Dr. Karen Spalding, Pierce Middle School Principal, Amy Gale, our elementary coordinator from Collycott and Cunningham. With us tonight is also Tracy Grandow, our newly appointed pupil personnel director. And last but not least, Dr. Angela Burke, our technology director. So before we begin, I want to recognize all of the staff, administrators, and teachers who work to prepare this end-of-the-year report. Very briefly, Chairman Leroy Walker had asked for this report 2 years ago. Maura Downs had worked very hard with staff members, and V joined our team. She took it over, and I'll tell you, Dr. Pavlicek, Ms. Sheehan, and I have spent several hours with you, and you have provided a dashboard and a platform for the system. And the discussions that this report, I told Member Walker and Zulus, have brought about in each of the levels in each of the schools is amazing. So I am very proud for you to share this with the school committee and the Milton community. So welcome tonight, and thank you for being such a patient audience. Now those athletics statistics, V, come to life, right?
Yeah. So we'll get to that.
Welcome.
All right, thank you. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be in front of you to present some of the data about our school district. So this is the culmination of my work for the past 3 months since I was hired, so I'm very proud to be able to share this with you as well. I will warn you that it is a very long presentation, so I'm hoping to really cover the broad strokes of what's happening in our system, and then after that, we'll take questions and hopefully go into the contents of it more. But so without further ado, I'll just get started. Thank you. All right, so this is the agenda for tonight. First, I want to revisit some of the district next step that I proposed from our last presentation. Then we'll take a look at the district data dashboard that I built together to kind of look at the demographic profile of our school district over the past several years. We will also take a look at some of the standardized assessments results that we have, so some MCAS, some PSAT, AP scores, and such, and then we'll talk about internal assessments. All right. So From the last presentation, these are kind of the next step that I laid out. Firstly, to work with all discipline to streamline data collection for common assessment. So I'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of this presentation. One of the next steps is to evaluate district data systems. So you'll hear a little bit more about that, I believe, from Dr. Angela Burke, my colleague. Work with Dr. Angela Burke to train staff on relevant technology tools, Google Drive, Google Classroom, so we did that. Work with curriculum coordinators to support data analysis practices at all grade level. We're starting to do that, and we'll push ahead with that for next year too. But before you can even really work with data, you need to have good data that you're working with. So that's what I'm working with, the curriculum coordinators over the summer to really build out the infrastructure to gather all that data for next year. And then lastly, develop dashboards. So that's what I will focus my presentation on today. All right. So why is there a need for dashboards? In the Milton Public School system, you know, we have a lot of different data systems at play. We have a lot of different data. There hasn't really been an easy or systematic way to pull all the data pieces together so that you can look at intersection of data and really try to make sense of what it all means. So dashboards really provide a uniform way for you to look at data, for school leaders to learn how to look at the data and read it in the same way. Dashboards also help to eliminate the inefficiency of reproducing the same graph or reports over and over again manually. So this is what Superintendent Wormley was referring to when she's talking about the yeoman's work, really, that Maura Downs had put in the past to manually go through and pull through data and put all the Excel graphs together. So I'm hoping that the dashboard system that I've created will really help us not to do that anymore, to save the time and effort, instead to look at the data, talk about it together, and come up with action steps for any of the issue that it might that might arise through the data. So the context for all the dashboard is that all the demographic data are drawn from our Admin Plus student information system. So all our system, our data is warehoused in that one system, along with Family ID, which is our athletics program database. And I also drew some information from the Massachusetts DESE website. So all this data was updated in early June. All right. So without further ado, here's a look at the first dashboard. And so when I'm going through these dashboards, I'm mostly just going to tell you how to read the data. So if there are any clarification questions that's preventing you from understanding what the data is saying, please feel free to ask me. But other content question, please just hold it until the end because we have a lot of slides to go through. So this is looking at enrollment statistics for our school system for the past 4 years. Up top, you can see kind of the year, and then you can also see the grade level going down the left side. So for example, in 2011 and 2012, 3% of our enrollment was for the preschool program. So that's 103 students. So that's what those numbers mean, and that's how you read it. And the important thing, I guess, the thing to note about this slide is really looking at the bottom. If you look at the percentages, it doesn't seem like it's changing so much. You know, you're seeing 8%, 8%, 8%, 9%. So it doesn't look like it's changing so much. But if you look at the numbers, the actual numbers at the bottom, you see that from 2011, 2012, our total enrollment was 3,905 students. And this year, the year that we just finished, 2014, 2015, we have 4,049 students in the system. So that's an increase of about 144 students over the past 3 years. And that just has implication for how you're planning for space and classrooms and all of that. So like I said, the enrollment, you see a slight increase, and most of that increase is actually coming from the elementary school, which makes sense. And in this graph here, I have the enrollment number broken down by the individual schools. So you see that for the elementary schools, mostly there is an increase in about the numbers. So the Collicott, there was an increase of 31 seats over the last 3-4 years. At Cunningham, increase of 41 seats. At the Glover School, 32. Tucker, 25. Pierce was 36. Milton High School was the only school that has a decrease in the last 4 years, so they lost 19 seats. So that's interesting. So I'm gonna kind of go through this quickly, but if you have any clarification question, like I said, just please stop me. So this slide, we are looking at our special education numbers in the district, and Tracy is here to shed some light on these numbers later. So you can see at the top left are the numbers for the districts, and district-wide in 2011-12, we have about 16% of our students who were receiving special education services. And in this year that we just finished, 14 and 15, we have 536 students receiving special education services, and that's about 13% of our student population. Now, nationwide, if you are looking at just the number of special education students, it's also around 13%. So we're really right there on par with the national mark. At the bottom, you see the breakout by each different school as well. So you can kind of see the percentages changing a little bit at some of the schools. And you know, I'm sure that the numbers are really tiny, so you probably can't see everything really well up here, but this presentation is going to be published on the website, so if you're interested in looking at the numbers more closely, you can definitely refer to it later. But what I really wanted to show here are, you know, kind of the trends that we're seeing over the past couple of years, and that you can kind of see that in the orange. So this is the dashboard for our ELL students, our English language learners. They make up about 1% of our student population, so we don't have a lot of those ELL students in the district. Part of that is, you know, we might have more students at the beginning of the year, but as we're providing services, they might be testing out of the program, so that could account for the numbers too. Okay, so in this next dashboard, we're looking at percentages of low-income students across the district. Again, the top 4 bars really represent the district number, and then the breakdown by each different school is at the bottom. And district-wide, we have about 13% of our student population who are low income. And this low income data I pulled directly from the data that we submit to the state. The state, however, is going to a new designation for calculating what they call economically disadvantaged students. So this year, starting this year and in the future, they'll no longer be using low income as a term. They'll be using a new measure, the economically disadvantaged, and what that really means is they are just pulling directly from state databases, from SNAP databases, TAFDC, from Mass Health databases to identify students who are low income. So, you know, presumably in the future, our economically disadvantaged numbers will be lower, a lot lower than what we have here for our low-income numbers. That doesn't mean that there's any material change in people's financial status. It just means that it's just a different measure that the state is using. So I wanted the school committee and the public to be aware of that too, that when we're talking about low income and economically disadvantaged in the future, it's really two different metrics, and they're not comparable because the economically disadvantaged is going to be a subset of the low income. Yeah. Okay, so in this dashboard, we're looking at the race composition of our district. And again, at the top 4 bars, I broke it out by what the district-wide, what the numbers look like. So purple are our white group, and then the yellow are the non-white groups. So across the past 4 years, you can see that we're pretty stable in terms of our diversity at 30% in the district. And that number has not changed. That percentage has not changed. The actual number might change a little bit, but the percentage is 30%. So we're pretty stable, pretty diverse community. When you break it out by the different school, then you see some differences. And you see a lot more diversity at the middle school and the high school, and that makes sense because all the students are coming together. And then there are some differences in our elementary schools as well. One thing that I wanted to mention was, obviously here you can see the Tucker is very higher than the rest of the elementary schools. But, talking to the superintendent and looking back at our data, the other schools, 10 years ago, they were 10%, in the low teens in terms of diversity. And over the past 10 years, the superintendent and the district has really focused on this issue, and you can see the percentages starting to creep up for a lot of our other schools, and that, I think, is a great asset for us. We have this diversity in the district, so how do we figure out how to make sure that it's present at all our school? So this is an important slide. In this slide, I broke out the different racial groups at our district. So in our district, we have 16% of our students are African American. We have 6% who are Asian, 4% Hispanic or Latino, another 4% who are multiracial, and then 70% of our students are white. And then you can see down at the bottom the breakout for each of the individual school as well. On the top right-hand corner, I did an analysis of the intersection of race and low-income students and kind of overlay those two elements together to give us a better picture of who race and low income and how does that intersect. So in our district, of all the African American students, 41% of them are low income. 21% of our Asian students are low income. 37% of our Hispanic or Latino students are low income, and then 18% of our multiracial students are low income. And only 4% of our white students are low income. So, from this chart, you can definitely see that there's a discrepancy, there's a difference between the different groups here. Okay, so I'm going to move on to talking about French immersion. So the 4 big bars, again, represent the district number, and this is looking at French immersion for the whole, the whole grade spectrum, excluding pre-K and kindergartens because they don't have the French program there yet. So 40%, 37%, 38%, 40%. So district-wide, it seems like we're pretty stable at the 40% mark. In terms of looking at the racial composition of the French immersion program, you can see 13% of all African American students in the district are in the French program. 21% of Asian students are, so on and so forth. And then you see 49% of white students, so almost half of our white students are in the French immersion program. So down at the bottom, I just pull out a point, which is 201 out of our almost 1,400 students in the French immersion program, or 14% are minority students. And just a reminder that the minority students actually compose of about 30% of students in the district. So there's a difference there that we need to look at. And then in terms of low income and French immersion, for all the non-low income students, 44% of them are in French immersion. And for all low income students, 13% of them are in French immersion. And when you break it out a little bit more and look at the number of low-income students in lieu of the total number of students in the French immersion program, you see that that percentage is very low. And I mean, depending on what you want to do with the program, you also have to think about when students get to enter the French program, which is in first grade, And so if I go on to this next slide, you can see the breakout by elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school. So the orange part in the elementary school represent the percentage of students who are who were in the French immersion program. And for elementary school, it went from 49% in 2011 and 12 down to up to 53% in 2012-13, 53% in 2013-14, and then we're back down to 46% now in 14-15. And then you can also see the breakout of French, of students in the French immersion program by the different schools at the very bottom. All right. So I know I'm going through this very quickly, but I just want to give you an overview, then maybe we can talk about it. So district, staff, and race. The staff that I'm reporting here are only the staff that were required to report to the state. So the staff that are counted here do not include custodial staff, after-school staff, food services staff, or athletic staff. So the rest of the other staff we're looking at teachers, we're looking at aides, we're looking at administrators, and the blue is a percentage of our staff who are white, and then the orange are a percentage of our staff who are non-white. So you can see that we're also around 7% in 2011 and 12, 6% in 12-13, 7% in 13-14, and in 14-15 this year, we're at 8%. And the bottom is the breakout by the different school. And you can see in the middle school and the high school, we have more diversity on our staff. This is taking a look at the gender composition of our staff. So heavily female dominated. I don't think that's a surprise here. In the elementary school, you see so the blue bar represent the percentage of male staff. In the elementary schools, you see that the blue bars are much lower than in the middle school and the high school. And that's kind of typical of what it looks like elsewhere as well. Okay, so now we're on to our graduation rate and this is looking at not this year's graduation rate, but the 2014 cohort, so last year's senior. And all student, looking at all student, we're at 94%. And I thought looking at our college going rate is also important in tandem with looking at our graduation rate. So I have this data for only the last 2 years that we really started collecting. And I'm sure, people know where students have gone on to colleges in the past, but it's only this past 2 years that we've systematically sat down, that the guidance, the director of the guidance department has made it a point to give every exiting senior a survey that they have to fill out to kind of let us know their intention of where they're enrolling in school. We want to keep that data. We really want to make sure that any improvement that we can make on that data, so we're asking them for that survey at the end of their years here at Milton Public School. So I'm breaking this data up by the types of colleges or post-grad career option that students are opting to go into. So the first bar is representing 4-year colleges. The second bar is 2 years colleges. Then we have a number of students who are going to military, a number going to technical trade school. Some are choosing to be employed instead. And so you can kind of see the percentages comparison between the 2 years. And the good news for this year, for 2015, is that 92% of our students are going to college. And that's 4 years colleges and 2-year colleges combined. In this slide, breaking up the college matriculation stats up by race. And you can see the blue bars are our white students, and then the green bar up at the very top, our African American students. Next is the light green is our Asian student, the yellow is our Hispanic student, and the light yellow is our multiracial students. So looking at this, what you really want to see is a mirroring. 36% of our non-white students are going to 4-year colleges, and that's really good news because in terms of the total graduating class, 39% of our students are non-white, and we have 36% going to 4 years colleges. That's great. This is taking a look at low income, the intersection of our low income students and college going rate. So the very first bar that you see are the 4 years colleges, and the orange portion are the low income student. So for this year, 2015, 16% of students who are going to 4 years colleges are low income student. And we have 19% low income students in the senior graduating class. This slide is helping us take a look at gender and how that play out in the college going rate. So in this year, 2015, 39% of our students going to 4-year colleges, boys, are male, and they make up 45% of the graduating class. So that statistic is a little bit low because there's a 6% difference between the boys' composition of the entire graduating class versus how many are going to college. So that's something that I know that our guidance department will kind of continue to monitor and look into. And the other thing that I want to say is, we only have 2 years worth of data here, so we can't really infer that there's a trend yet. Maybe there's just more boys this year and they don't want to go to college, they want to get a job, they want to go do other things instead. So this is why keeping data is important, because when you keep data year after year, then you can really build up to see if there's a trend in what's happening with your school system. Okay, so speaking of athletics, I know that we had, a great event earlier in the night honoring all our student athletes. So this is looking at some athletic stats from this year. On the top bar, the dark blue, what you see is a breakout of race groups within Milton High School. So 20% of our Milton High population are African American, 6% are Asian, 4% are Hispanic or Latino, another 4% are multiracial, and 62% of our Milton High student population are white. And for this year, in terms of sports participation, the breakout by the different race group, 17% of all students who participated in sports are African American, 6% who participated are Asian, 69% of students who participated are white. And then at the bottom, I made a chart that kind of compared the ratio of student athletes in each of the race groups that we have in the school system. And the good news is overall 65% of our Milton High School student body play sports. And this could be one sport, two sports, three sports, but 65% of our students are getting exposure to our great sports program here. And African American students have the lowest percentage of sports participation at 46%, versus their white counterparts who are, playing sports at 73%. So 73% of the white students are playing sports versus 46% of our African American students are playing sports. And in this slide, I'm highlighting all the sports that have 30% or more diversity on their team. So we see cheerleading being highlighted, we see football, we see soccer for boys, volleyball for girls up here, and these are all the fall sports. In the winter sports, you see basketball for boys, cheerleading, indoor track. All these sports have 30% or more diversity. So in the spring, outdoor track, our rugby team, our tennis team for both boys and girls. And then in terms of participation by grade level, this is kind of the breakdown. For the fall sports, winter sports, and spring sports, and you can kind of see the grade level at the bottom, and you kind of see a decline going from freshman year to senior year, and that's because, a freshman, I think we have a dedicated freshman sports team that freshmen can play on, and then as they progress in their sports career, then they have, the JV hurdle to get through, the varsity hurdle to get through, so that kind of weed out some students. Okay. So now I'm going to go on to talking about our standardized assessment data, and this is the MCAS. So for this, this is data for spring 2014. And overall, Milton Public School has consistently outperformed the state on all the MCAS, actually, as you'll see in the next couple of slides. For ELA in particular, we're at around 80% of our students are scoring proficient or above. In math, same story, we're about 80% of our students scoring proficient or above. In science, we have about 60% of our students scoring proficient or above. And I think This, in 2011, we're at 60%. In 2014, we're at 65%. So you can definitely see an increase in just the percentages of students who are proficient and above. And I know that the district has invested a lot in the advancement budget on STEM and on science. So we're hopeful that the results will continue to increase. This is looking at the growth data for the ELA MCAS. And so I don't know if you can see this, but on the horizontal axis, between 40 and 60, that's the SGP. That's where most students are expected to fall. So if they fall within that range, then that's normal growth for the year. And then the vertical axis really tells you about achievement data in terms of scoring proficient on the MCAS. So if we look at grade 10 up there, they are the highest achieving in terms of the ELA MCAS, because almost like 95% of 10th graders are scoring proficient or above. So this chart gives you more specificity. I'm going to go on to the math SGP chart. So again, we see grade 10 again being really up there in terms of achieving highly, and also they're further along on the horizontal axis. So the students are actually making growth too. They're both achieving highly and growing, making a lot of growth. So some more specific data. All right, so now I'm talking about our PSAT, SAT, and AP program here. And if you look down at the bottom here, you see the numbers of students who have taken the test in the last 4 or 5 years. Oops, so I'm going to go back to this slide. So this slide is great because it shows you the percentage of students who are participating in each of these important tests. So for the blue bar was the percentage of class taking that particular test in 2011-12. The red bar is 12-13, and the green bar is 13-14. So if you look at our PSAT data, the two rightmost bar, you see over 90% of our students are taking the PSAT. So that's an astounding statistic for anywhere in the country, really. A lot of our students are taking the PSAT, and I think this is in a large part thanks to the Copeland Family Foundation, who really pushed that initiative and making sure that all our students get this exposure, because they now take the PSAT in school for free during school hours. So almost everyone is taking it. And this is a crucial first step for thinking about being ready for college and what do you need to do to get ready for college. You see for our SAT, almost mid-80% of our seniors are taking the SAT, AP. Half our students, half of our juniors and seniors are taking the AP student. Okay. And then in terms of our minority student population, so the red line is the percentage of minority students we have at Milton High School, which is about 37%. And then the various bars represent for each different test the percentage of students who self-report on that particular test that they're a student of color. So for the SAT, 34% of the students who took the test are minority students. For the AP, 31%, the PSAT, 37%, and 40% respectively. So we're getting a diverse pool of students taking all these tests. All students are getting exposure to all these important tests. This is looking at the average scores for the SAT in the past 5 years. And you can see the top one is the critical reading score, the critical reading average score. The middle one is the math average score, and the bottom one is the writing average score. And we're scoring around 500. So that's something that I think we have to keep thinking about and keep pushing on, because the SAT is an important component of college application. And the range is really 200 to 800. We're right in the middle. We're at 500. Can we push further? This slide is a really great news story about the AP program in our district. You can see in 2009 and 2010, we have about 546 AP exams. So the number of students is probably less than 500, but these are the total number of exams that we're taking at the school. And of that, 256 exam score a qualifying score, so that's a 3 or above. That's 47% of the exams. As we progress now to 13, 14 on the far right, 74% of all our exams now have qualifying scores. So that's an incredible achievement, and you can kind of see it going up, and hopefully it'll continue to go up, And I think the really special feature of this AP program is that we have open enrollment. Any student, a junior or senior, can elect to take an AP class. In other districts, you have stringent requirement about certain academic standards that you have to meet in order to even get into an AP classroom. And we're not putting up that barrier for our students here. We're letting everyone who wants to take an AP class take an AP class, but we're not, lowering the standards for doing that, because as you can see with our results here, like 74% of our students, 74% of our exams are getting the qualifying scores. So that's really great news. Okay, so this last section is about internal assessments. And I know that I did a presentation earlier just outlining the landscape of all the different types of assessments that we do within Milton Public Schools. So today I'm just going to give you a snapshot of some of these assessments and really go into greater depth about what it looks like, what the scores mean, so that you can get a taste. So at the elementary level, these are all the different kinds of assessments that we take. Today I'm going to be talking particularly about the FMP at grade 2. Okay. So the FMP is a comprehensive reading assessment system that links assessment to instruction. The reason that you do the FMP is it allows you to get to determine a student's independent and instructional reading level, so that teachers know what is the right books for students to be reading at. And the FMP also allows you to identify some of our students who are struggling with reading, what do they need in particular. So that's really a helpful tool for teachers to use in the classroom and for our reading specialists as well. It is administered 2 to 4 times a year as needed to drive classroom instruction. For this particular cohort of second grader that I'll be showing you, it's 41 students. They're consisting of 1 self-contained classroom and 1 co-taught classroom. There are 7 IEP students in this cohort, and 5 of whom are in the co-taught classroom. And the really exciting news is, at the end of the year, 23 out of our 41 students, or 56%, at the end of second grade, were really reading a full grade level above their benchmark. So they're reading at a third grade end of the year benchmark level. So let's look at the data. So you can kind of see the timeline down at the bottom. The middle bar is September 2014. And then we also went back to get some of their data from their first grade year as well. And this is kind of the breakout that you see. The red bar underneath the black line, those are the students who are two or more levels below, 2 reading levels below. The yellow bar is 1 reading level below. The green bar above the black line is those who are percentage of students who are on reading level, and then the blue color is students who are above reading level. So looking at this, you can see, this is the cohort of students who started in grade 1. You can see almost 40% of them were below reading level in grade 1. And after, being with our system and with our teachers, you see at the end of grade 2, 73% of them are reading above, 12% are reading on level, and only 14% from the original 40% are still below level. So there's been tremendous progress, and not to mention that, half of them are now reading at the third grade reading level. So I don't know what they'll be doing next year. They'll have to increase the benchmarks for these students. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about some of the middle school's assessment, particularly focusing on the SRI taken in for a cohort of 6th graders. So the SRI, or the Scholastic Reading Inventory, is another reading assessment that is really looking at student comprehension. And the purpose of doing the SRI in the fall is to establish the independent reading level so that teachers and reading specialists who are working with students can identify which kind of books are just right for the students to read, just right to challenge them with. So this is the results from our 6th grade cohort for this year. And you can see on the far right, you have the September results and the May results next to each other. And the SRI is broken out into these different percentile. For a certain Lexile score, it's below grade level. If you get above a certain Lexile score, it's on grade level, and then above level. So what's important to note here is, if you're looking at from September to May, in the percentage of students who are scoring below grade level, they're all decreasing, they're all going down, which means those students are moving out of the below grade level category. And even on the on grade level bars, you see that, for the low proficient students there, the percentage of students scoring low proficient and proficient is decreasing, and that's because they're moving out of those category into the higher category of high proficient and advanced. All right, so how do we use the September SRI assessment results? So we use it to identify students in need of reading assistance and we also share data with other content area teachers and special educators. This data is also used to help identify students who might need additional support in reading. So our reading specialist this year at the Pierce, and Dr. Spalding can speak more to this later, but she works with 28 students, and all 28 students improve. Higher needs students were scheduled for daily support with her, and students with moderate needs were scheduled for support every other day. And this is how you're able to see the difference between the September and the May results. Okay, so I'm going to go on to talking about an example of the 8th grade math assessment at Pierce as well. So the 8th grade, they did a performance-based math task, and here is kind of a picture to show you what it is. So that's a picture of a family, and then at the bottom, you see kind of a scatter plot with different names, and students are asked different questions about the mathematical relationship between the people in the family, how it relates to the graph and all that. And so, teachers really got together at the beginning of the year to design a growth parameter for how to score these exams. And you can kind of see on the left side, these are the scores. At 8 is where the teachers determined together that, if you score around 8 points, you're meeting the standard. And then on the right side, you see kind of the designation for how you determine how much growth a student has made in the year. So it's important to note that they did all this before giving the exam, so it's not like they did the exam and then they went back and say, okay, we should have this as a benchmark because this will make our percentage look good or anything like that. They did all this work beforehand, and that's because, what's really important about internal assessment is a tool that teachers use in the classroom to help them assess where their students are. It doesn't help them to say that 90% of their students are on grade level, because then it doesn't really differentiate the instruction. That means that the assessment is not rigorous enough. So you really want to make the assessment challenging. So with a challenging assessment, you're not going to get 90% of your students on grade level all the time, but you're going to get teaching points for how you can move your students along. Okay. So this is the results of that math performance task. In the pre-test, you really see that 64% of students, and this is back in September when they took this pre-test, 64% of students were not meeting the standard yet. 64% of students were in the red bar. And on the post-test, which they just conducted in June, in late May and June, you see that percentage has changed. Now 69%, almost 70% of the students are meeting the standard from 36% at the beginning of the year, so that you can tell that this is a rigorous task that was asked of students. Not everyone is meeting the standards, but there's been a lot of growth and a lot of movement. And then you can see kind of the breakout of growth and the percentage of students who made high growth, low growth, and moderate growth. So almost 80% of students made moderate to high growth. And here I just want to share with you an example of how teachers actually use some of this assessment data. So at the beginning of the year, after they took the pre-test, the group of teachers really came together, sat together, analyzed the student work, then came up with some of this analysis to kind of help them guide their instruction for the rest of the year. So for the family reunion example, which is the task that I showed you the picture of earlier, for students who met the standard, who were considered above level, many of the students could match all family members correctly by interpreting the scatter plot. but most students struggle to account for age changes. So one of the questions asks you to, how does the age relate to the picture that you see, and most students struggle with that. So I just want to read this to you. Almost all students could match some family members by interpreting the scatter plot. Many students could use algebraic reasoning to find solutions. Many students struggle to write simple expression. So this analysis is a chance for teachers to come together to agree on what are the teaching points that we need to go back and revisit with our students and all of that. So that's why we do these internal assessments. And then at the high school level, I want to talk to you about the collaborative critical thinking task that the math department implemented this year. So all of this is to say that there are 7 learning expectations at the high school level, and one of them being effectively applying critical thinking skills to solve problems. So the math department really took this on. They designed one task per term for each of their unit in course 1, course 2, and course 3. And these tasks are basically very challenging mathematical problems. They were given 20 minutes at the beginning of the class to talk with other students to share strategy. And then the rest of the tasks they were asked to complete independently on their own. Each task is aligned to a different standard, therefore scores are not intended to be compared to each other, but instead the goal is for students to score at least proficient on each task. And on proficiency means proficient on effectively applying critical thinking skill to solve problems. So let's look at the results. For math course 2, this is kind of the rubrics that the teacher used to really analyze the student work that they get back. So as you can see, it's very detailed, it's very developed. They took time to kind of norm this rubric together to make sure that the teacher who's grading the pre-test and the post-test and all of that is kind of on the same page. So here, the top left, you see that's the scoring key. 16 is advanced, 12 is proficient, 8 is developing, and 4 is deficient. And then on the right side, you kind of see the averages for each term for each of these tasks. So they're averaging around 11, 10, 11.4, 11.5, so around proficient. But what's more interesting is looking at the bottom graph. And these show the percentage of students who are scoring proficient on each task. And you can see that, in term 1, they're 55%, term 2, 46% of students are scoring proficient, term 3, 58%, term 4, 62%. And, although the scores are not comparable from term to term, you do want to see the percentage of students who are scoring proficient increase each term. And that's the trend that we're seeing right here, so that's really good news. And I think, so those are all the slides that I wanted to cover with you today. These just outline some of the next step that I plan to take after doing this project. So I'll continue to develop and maintain the district data dashboard because I think that's a good way for schools to, for leadership, for the public, for administrators, teachers, to kind of look at, what do you have, what are the profile of students sitting in front of you in your classroom in this district, and are we thinking about meeting the needs of all students sitting in front of us? A second bullet point is to deal with cleaning up data in our current system and really revisiting data procedure to make sure that we have accurate data in our system. So the data is really only as useful as how accurate it is. If you have bad data, you're not going to be able to make very informative decisions based on that. And so, one of our priorities is really thinking about, are we getting accurate data in our system? I'll continue to refine and build out all the system to support the internal assessments to make sure that teachers have a way to input that data somewhere so that they can compare results, they can talk with each other, they can get together around the data and do analysis, and all that. And then work with curriculum coordinators and school leaders to support data analysis practices. So that's definitely a muscle that we want to build up in the district. How do we use data effectively in the classrooms, at leadership team, all that. And supporting transition to new systems. So, as we're moving on with our work, we might be discovering that some systems might not be great for our needs here. So how do we help the system, help teachers, help parents make the transition to new system which are more in line with our current needs and not the needs of, student population like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So that's something that we're also revisiting and considering. And so at this point, I know that was a lot to take in. And if you have any questions, I'm sure my colleagues here would be happy to help answer as well.
Well, thank you very much, Fee. Before we proceed with the questions, let me just say that certainly a very useful aggregation of the data and a very business-like collection and presentation of the data that will certainly be very helpful to us going forward, and a great overview. It does cover several different subject matters, and we may want to, in the future, break out one or two of those subject areas at a future meeting and do a deeper dive.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Now, having said that, let me open the floor to questions to the extent that members want to talk about the process or ask specific questions about the data at this point. Ms. Bagley-Jones.
I don't know if I have a question, but also a comment. First of all, I hope Mary Kelly is watching this on TV, as this is something she would absolutely love, all of this data. I have to be honest, I looked at the number of the pages, and I almost crawled under the table and said, oh, my God. And
I know, me too.
I hope there are no math teachers watching, but I'm not a math person, and this was incredibly interesting and well done. That's high praise coming from me because of how I feel about math. But anyway, so I thought it was incredibly informative and easy for people like me to follow along with. The district data dashboards I thought were incredibly useful to look at and something that I'm glad we can get a hold of. I have to say that they were very disturbing, some of the data in terms of our racial groups, our special ed groups, et cetera, French immersion, very disturbing, but it was good to see it in black and white or red and yellow. But you talked a couple times about, here's 30% of our diversity, and here's an issue that sort of meets that or is close to that. Can you say of all of those items on the dashboard, what are the ones that really stand out to you as like, oh, this is really a red flag, or is that too much? Because it's not in numbers. I mean, what are the what are the issues that really stand out to you all that sort of go, wow, this is really not good?
Well, when I was looking at the numbers, well, first of all, I'm new to this district, so I'm still educating myself on just the context behind these numbers, what it really means. But what really jumped out at me was, the slides on the racial diversity of our town here and our public school system here. I think 30% is a great percentage of diversity for our system. But looking at our schools, our different schools, you don't see that reflected. And I'm wondering what is causing that, or are there ways that we can expose more of our students to the great diversity that we have in this town. I mean, honestly, when I'm looking at some comparison for other towns that are achieving academically, you know, Brookline, Newton, they don't have the diversity that we do here in Milton. And you really have to question how much of what stock you really put in the diversity factor here in the school, and how important is it to expose all of our students to that diversity factor. I mean, I came from Boston, you know, my family came from Boston. My girls are going to be going to schools here, and I really want to think about that. Like, diversity is a big issue for me, and I think it's an asset for our town, but how do we expose all of our students to it?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Donahue.
That was tremendous. Thank you very much. I'm wowed by that presentation. I thought not only was the data tremendously interesting and worthy of, I think, multiple meetings, multiple discussions, but the way it was presented was incredible. I liked the dashboard metrics that you used. I thought that once you spent a little time looking at them, they became maybe not self-explanatory, but explanatory. Definitely, especially with the editorial comments that you have put in with several of the charts. Those were very, 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 very helpful. In sort of looking at your presentation in general, I broke it down into 3 components. The first was the dashboard tools themselves, which I think this was a great showcase for. The second was a discussion about the assessment methods that we're using and the data collection, and the third was a discussion about the actual data. So I have comments, questions, thoughts on all 3 of those. I'm going to confine my initial comments to the first 2. First, with regards to the dashboard tools, again, I think they're tremendous. They allow both a macroscopic view and a microscopic view of the district. So I'll go back to that, the example that you used about the second grade testing situation, and you can expand that to look at the district in general, or as you did with that cohort, you can see that there are 5 or 6 students who remain markedly below their peers, and sort of really focus in on those 5 or 6 students, and make sure that those 5 or 6 students are the same 5 or 6 students that you're in this cohort that you're looking at, as opposed to the previous, testing data points. My question with regards to the dashboard tools themselves are the F&P dashboards standardized across all of the F&P data that we collect? So when someone looks at, again, page 44 is a good picture. So when we acquire data using that rubric, are all of the dashboard output going to look like this? So it's easy for teachers and principals to say, this is what this output from this input looks like.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question, and that's definitely something that I will be working with our teachers and our curriculum coordinator and our principals to design for the upcoming school year. I think you hit the nail right on the head. If you have all this data and everyone is looking at it differently or interpreting it differently, then you're not reading the same data. You're not getting the same conclusion from it. So at the district level, we're working with all our staff to really think about what's the best way to represent these data so that it's most informative for teachers in the classroom. Yeah.
If I might add one comment, with this F&P data, when we sit with the principals, we actually, you said go down to the second graders, we actually look each quarter at who those children are. We look at who those students are. We identify students at both ends of the spectrum. We look at the number of children who have jumped 1 or 2 levels, and when you were speaking about, who those second graders are, it gives new significance to no child being left behind. When they're sitting at the local level, and we're sitting and saying, Mary Gormley was at this level, what kind of supports have we put in place for Mary Gormley to move, and why isn't Mary Gormley making the jumps that every other student in that class is making.
And then, if I may, 2 or 3 follow-ups to that. More to the assessment and data collection, specific questions. When we look at our graduation statistics and we talk about graduates entering the military, those are, I just want to clarify, those are graduates going directly into the military, not the service academies?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And the second follow-up point, specifically with regards to some of the editorial comments on the side, I think going forward in the future, you've probably thought this yourself, but I would like to state it on behalf of myself. It would be helpful if we could have a definition for the difference between economically disadvantaged versus low income, so that even if we can't compare the data graphically, we can account for it mentally when we look at the numbers. And the third follow-up point to that is sort of an open-ended question that doesn't necessarily have to be answered here or in this forum, but making sure that our teachers are giving us feedback that they're not being overwhelmed with data entry and that they're getting a chance to actually teach.
Yeah.
That I want to make sure that they're as enthused about this as I am on the giving end as I am on the receiving end. So with that, I'll turn the microphone off.
Ms. Varela.
Yeah. First of all, thank you again, because it is a phenomenal, I printed it out today and looked through it, and I said, wow, wow, this is pretty detailed. But just to follow up to Dr. Donahue, I guess maybe you can't give because what I was going to ask is, do you all have what the definition is between, or you don't, between low income and economically disadvantaged, but that, like, next year, that subset should be well explained as how they're breaking the metrics out and what the significance in the metrics will be then, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes?
I mean, basically, for the economically disadvantaged, the state is pulling that directly from other state databases. So they're pulling from a Mass Health database, they're pulling from a SNAP database to kind of match up students who are in those databases, then they're considered to be economically disadvantaged. Whereas before, for our low income number, I think what we did was we issue a form that families can fill out if they feel that they're low income or that they qualify for free or reduced lunch, then the family fill it out. And then the onus is on the school system to kind of verify their information and make sure that, you know, they're low income. I think for the most part, we assume that people who are going to go through the trouble of filling out a low income application for free or reduced lunch in the school system means that they need it, you know. Whereas going forward, we're not going to have to do that application process anymore because the state are just going to pull those students directly from the other state databases. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's the technical difference.
Dr. Pavlicek and V went to a conference, and I've put in your green folder a Globe article that was featured this Monday. Fewer students found in poverty. State revises downward its count of impoverished students. So this is something that superintendents and business assistant superintendents are going to be dealing with in the next 2 months. That it's very interesting that 2 of you have picked up on this, that superintendents across the state are waiting to see how is this going to impact funding, how is this going to impact benefits, and V came back from the conference, V, not putting words in your mouth, to the point that Dr. Donahue spoke to, is it going to provide us to then compare data points? You know, if we talk about MCAS and PARCC, what is this going to do, our analysis of low income? So this is a topic that's really at the state level, right, on the top of the superintendent's list.
Ms. Padera.
So I was just going to say, I think that the presentation was great, and I'm looking forward to now we have a nice, clear-cut way of presenting data, so I'm sure that all the other presentations are going to even be, you know, better. And as you had said before, it's hard to look at just 2 years of data sometimes because you've got different things to look at, or even 1 year where you're looking at, different content and things. So it'll be great. Every year will be a little bit better and clearer way to look at data. I just had one question, and I know you might not be able to answer it, but on the AP data, the AP test data, the percentage of students with 3 to 5, scores of 3 to 5 has gone up, which is fantastic. But I noticed the number of tests has gone down, over 100. I'm just wondering whether that's, if we know the reason for that, have we lost a couple classes or anything like that significant, or is it just number of students taking those tests has gone down?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So the number of, that you were looking at is not the number of students taking the
Use
test?
the mic.
Sorry. The number is not the students taking the test, it's the tests taken. So you can have one student taking multiple tests.
Right.
So we can't really assume that it's that there are less students who are taking AP exams, but there are less tests being taken, but it could potentially be by the same number of students.
So it could be, but what I'm wondering is, have we reduced the AP selections? No. Okay.
So to that point, it's one of those data points that we think we've discussed it at the high school level. And to Chairman Zulis's point, it might be one of the dive down issues that we talk about. And we have to look at more than 1 year. And discussing with the high school people, the options are the same. I believe one Spanish, was it a Spanish AP was eliminated, but there's been no difference. So we have to look at this. We're actually looking at the AP enrollment for next year, so we're going to be able to answer that question for you within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Thank you, Dr.
Mr. Walker.
So, thank you. It's quite encouraging to see that the model that Ms. Downs and Dr. Pavlicek built continues to improve. And this is, it's obvious that quite a bit of work went into this. I think the chair put his finger on it. I would encourage the chair to try to find a time as you build the next couple of agendas to allow for a follow-up discussion. I think there's, there are a few things we need to discuss. I think we, as the school committee moves more and more towards data-driven decision-making, I think we owe you some direction about what data we need. I think the dashboards are helpful in terms of how you've organized them. I think the potential flaw with dashboards is they don't give you the granularity that you need, so I think we have to decide whether we have that granularity. And I think in terms of, there are a lot of different data elements here, and within each of those, there are different audiences. So the uses that you have for some of this data might be very different than the uses that the school committee has. And therefore, the form that you presented to your audience in might be different than the form you presented to the school committee in. So I think we need to talk about that a little bit. But most importantly, as we talk about, for me, what I'm looking for is demographics data, performance data, and what imperatives that suggests for the school committee and the superintendent. What are the policy imperatives, and what are the areas where we should be focusing? So at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for from a data-rich presentation like this. And some of that, in fairness, you have to give to us, and then some of that's work we have to do. But I think we just need to be sure that we're working collaboratively so that you get what you need and we get what we need. So with regard to the performance data, as we've done with MCAS, and I assume we'll do with PARC, here the comparison was how did we perform against the state? I say as often as I get the opportunity, we're a high-performing district. That battle has been fought and won. I'm interested in how students in Milton are performing against their Milton peers. So that's how I'd like to see MCAS performance data presented. The internal assessment data, I think, provides an extraordinary opportunity for us, but there as well, I'd like to see by school, by grade, what did the internal assessment data say, and then what trends you're seeing in terms of progress. A chart that simply says, we looked at a second grade and the trend is upward, that's good news for whatever that second grade was, but I'd like to know about the Collicott and the Cunningham and the Tucker and the Glover. So I think we've got some work to do there. There were a couple of places in the presentation where the populations didn't quite match up. If you look at the master enrollment slide that you had at the beginning, then you look at the SPED slide, I thought it was about 52 students short. If you look at the high school athletics population on the master chart, I think it's 989. On the chart further along in the presentation, it's 959. So we just didn't do a quality check there and make sure that the populations that we're comparing are consistent. Tracy, for your challenge, I think, and we didn't see, we had one SPED slide here, but we didn't see a lot about SPED achievement and performance. I think the challenge is still the development of a SPED closing the proficiency gap strategy, and then again more granularity. And you've got an incredibly complex population, so there are going to be a lot of caveats and a lot of differentiators. But at the end of the day, we need the same sort of strategy and the same sort of data presentation for the SPED population that we have for the entire district.
Just to respond to that, I think I hear your point loud and clear. There are things that we have to decide on what we want to see, because I can't remember the comment that was made earlier, like how much time do we want our teachers to spend on collecting data, and we really have to balance that with what kind of data do you really need at the school committee level to make the kind of policy decision that you need to be making. So it probably is a conversation between what the school committee needs and what we can provide that is not too onerous for teachers as well. But.
So I will look to the members over the next couple of weeks to contact me and let me know those areas in which you think we need to make a deeper dive in the short term over the next 2, 3, 4 meetings. And we may ask you to return with respect to some of those. Just a couple of quick process questions. Vee, who has access to the data dashboards?
So right now, all the school leaders, all the principals, and district leadership do.
Okay, and to Laura's point, is there any discrimination in terms of if they're signed up for the dashboards, do they get them all, or do they just get a subset of them, or is there any discrimination along those lines? Or?
Right now, I just have them all up on one website. I haven't discriminated anything yet.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Anything else? Oh,
if I might, first I want to recognize Vee. Somebody might ask why we brought all our district leaders here tonight, and Vee, it's been a learning experience for us too, and you gave Maura credit and Glenn Pavlicek for doing this, but the individuals at the table today have spent the hours over the years, 12 months a year, doing this data analysis. And I've said to the public and to the school committee, these individuals would have to do it beyond school hours, weekends, because Dr. Spalding's not going to say, with the 900 of you on hold today, because I'm preparing for the school committee next week. So the data analysis that our administrators have done over the past 4 years has been nothing short of amazing. And Vee agrees with me. And they've done it over and over again for school committee, PTOs, right, Ms. Burrows? And it's been phenomenal. And so what you see in front of you, if you had questions tonight, but Vee has quickly jumped into the Milton Public Schools, and they were here for support. I think we can all agree she can swim on her own now. And she owns and is gaining an understanding and has put herself in a team situation with all of our team leaders. So for all of those who came out tonight. I so appreciate it, and as Chairman Zulus said, if we target different areas, we'll identify individuals to come who can answer specific. Appreciate you coming out tonight, and this little secret is you all love this. They do love it. You should have seen them all smiling. They do love it. And you know what? This is your work, and this is the accomplishment of the children and students in front of you, and I'm deeply appreciative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, this was a request by school committee member Kelly before she left, and Roy Walker had asked for an Edline update. So we have a brief Edline update from Dr. Angela Burke, our technology director. Can you change?
Let me take a look.
What am I doing? Something in your packet. You did.
It's funny, actually, V's last slide indicated that she was going to support the transition to new systems, and that's actually what her and I have been working very closely together on this, and we do want to acknowledge that we've had some systems for a while that have worked. A lot of things are piecemeal, but in the interest of streamlining our systems and making things more up-to-date and efficient and doing what's best for the current population and staff members we have now, we have had some conversations about the use of Edline. Thank you so much. And what purpose it has served and whether or not it's the best tool for us right now based on what our needs are. So we looked at what the purpose of Edline. We took on Edline however many years ago before my time as a tool for communication between home and school. Really, that's the underlying, I mean, it does other things, but the underlying goal was to have a real solid tool for communication between home and school using technology. And so thinking of that as the goal, we're looking at the fact that we can do that without there being an additional system, because right now Edline is an additional system when you think about it. We have a student information system. We use Admin Plus through Redeker. We have other systems that we use in the district, and Edline's sole purpose was to be the connection between home and school so that teachers could report, thank you, on what they're doing in their classrooms, but it doesn't necessarily have to exist in isolation on Edline. We can streamline and use tools that we already have in existence and make it almost a one-stop shopping deal. So what I'd like to tell you is just share with you where we're at with this, our thinking, and how we'd like to move forward. So I just kind of outlined for you what Edline is currently doing, what purpose it's serving, just so you have in your head and you know exactly what it is that we need to replace. And then I'm going to show you how these things can fit into other categories of things we already have going on in the school. So I won't read it to you, but you're aware of what we currently use Edline for. I will just say, over the last few weeks, I have been doing some anecdotal data gathering, no formal surveys, but I have gotten into the schools. I've spoken with teachers, I've spoken with principals, guidance counselors, and just got a sense of what they think Edline is really doing for them. And unfortunately, it's kind of got a bad rap with the teachers. They don't love it. They don't think the interface of it is very friendly. And if we could find a better system for them, they are all for it. I've gotten nothing but thumbs up from everyone I've spoken to. If we can find a more efficient way of communicating between home and school, they're all for it. So that anecdotal data has been very helpful for us in terms of planning to move forward. So the way we're looking at replacing it is actually going to be live between three different things. The main two items would be a system we already use, Administrators Plus. It's our student information system, and it currently has the capacity to do way more than we're utilizing it for. So we would like to move forward with opening up Administrators Plus and having it serve the purposes that it can potentially serve. Our school website is also a place for communication. So a lot of the items that are currently on Edline can be stored and housed right on our own website. I put that last one because even though it wouldn't necessarily be a formal requirement of teachers, it is something we've been utilizing. We started rolling it out this year. We had some formal training back in April, and we've been getting teachers to have relationships with their students through Google Classroom. So the other two are more so for families, parents, community members at large to have a sense of what's going on. But Google Classroom is a really nice intimate relationship between teacher and student in terms of assignments being posted, grades being shared, comments, feedback. So that's an option that I put up there that we're exploring internally. But I just wanted to let you know, that, be aware of all of the options that are currently out there. So this chart just kind of outlines where the things that Edline we're currently doing for us would now live. So Administrators Plus, as I said, right now we use it for student information, but it can also be the place where we put our grades and print report cards and progress notes. Parents, well, there's a such thing called a parent portal where parents would get individual login information and they can go in at their leisure to look at classes to see whether their scholars are turning in assignments, what their grades are. They'd be able to see attendance and tardies. One of the things that I think V is really excited about is you see demographic data on there because as you know right now, that is self-identified. When folks enroll in Milton Public Schools, they're expected to fill out a form that says, I identify as. And so sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle, and we have noticed that there's sometimes errors with how people are categorized for racial ethnicity. This would allow us to fix all of that because parents would be allowed to change if there's inaccuracy. So if they look on their profile and they see they're listed as African American and they're Asian American, they can fix that. Anything that's self-reporting, they can fix. They can't change their address, they can't, do too much, but if they have an updated phone number or they have an incorrect racial identification, they can do that. So that's going to help clean up some of that data that V has been looking at once we turn on the parent portal. But those are all things that Administrators Plus has been capable of doing, so we're interested in moving forward with rolling that out in the district. As you see the long list on the Milton webpage, because right now Edline is also a place where folks go to download forms, access links, and our webpage can absolutely be the home for all of those things. So I like to keep referring to it as one-stop shopping. So if you're a community member or a family member and you want some information on Milton Public Schools, you shouldn't have to go to 3 different sites or go to one page and then click a link that takes you to an external site. It should just all be in one central location, and that would be our miltonps.org website. And then lastly, as I mentioned, the next thing that we're moving forward to with teachers is the Google Classroom, which again is a place where students can log in at night and see their homework assignments. Teachers can provide feedback in the moment, so if a child does a paper and they submit it electronically, the teacher can write right on it, let them know how they're doing, and it's a nice way of keeping up with academic support. However, again, that would be between teacher and student. Really, I want to focus on the other two portals because that's where parents and community members would be able to get information on what's going on. So the same way Edline now is the place where a parent can log in and see course content or syllabus for the year, the Administrators Plus can actually hold what we call a teacher page so that they can do the same exact thing. If there are links or to resources that teachers are currently providing for you, parents, they would still exist. But again, it would be streamlined in one place in a system we already use as opposed to having that second system of Edline. Because right now, if you go to the miltonps.org and you're looking for some of these things, curriculum documents, downloadable forms, even your school committee news, it's a link that takes you to another place. And that just kind of sometimes, things get lost in the shuffle, and I think sometimes folks have a hard time navigating when you're being bounced around to different websites. So this would make things a lot more user-friendly for the public, parents, and for teachers, because they're going to the same place where they're entering their grades in terms of updating any class content. that was one of the feedback I got from a lot of folks is they were honest. The teacher said at the beginning of the year, they do the bare minimum. They put what they're supposed to put up for Edline based on what we asked them to do, but then it's hard for them to keep it updated throughout the year. So you log on in December and you're still seeing kind of the same thing that they put up in September. But we really want we really want it to be an active, live place where they are keeping folks informed of what's going on in their classes. So if we make the process easier for them, it's much more likely that they'll be able to update it more frequently. And these are just in-house things, just so you're aware where our thinking is. We definitely want to move forward with this, and we're looking at all angles. We just have a couple other things to think about where we want to host, because again, I don't want to have too many third-party websites, but we will need to consider some things that aren't public. You know, like when you go to the website, anyone can log on to miltonps.org and look at some school pages and see what's going on in our district, check out how cool we are. But then there are some things that are really internal, just, you know, in terms of filling out work orders for technology. I thought of that one. And then right now, we want to be able to have a private place where kids who have incidences of bullying or teachers who want to report bullying, and then our professional development. So those things we're working on internally in terms of how we want to figure that out. But really, with Edline wasn't serving, you know, a good purpose for us for those things anyway. But I just wanted you to know our thinking and make sure you're aware that we are aware of all of the aspects that it would take to streamline this out. So. Questions about, please?
Ms. Varela?
I have a couple. So my first question is, if we could eliminate Edline and wouldn't have to support it, do you have any kind of a ballpark of what the cost reduction would be to the district to not have to support that system, number one? Number two, from the surveying that you've done and with Administrators Plus now, are teachers up to speed on it? If they're not, how much more training would they need? And do you think that it's just more user-friendly, that more teachers would use it, so that, again, as a parent, when you go in December and nothing's changed since September 14th, that would be nice? And thirdly, would it cost any more money to the district to have to expand the uses of Google and Administrators Plus?
Great question. So from the beginning. Fortunately, I don't have anything to do with the cost of Edline. I've never been informed of what we pay for Edline, so I don't know what the savings will be to not have to use Edline.
Several thousand.
Okay.
So that's a bonus. The second question was about the training and support that teachers will need. So during July, I am personally going to a training given directly by Redeker, just to make sure I completely understand all the scope of the technical side and the content side of what it will encompass. But they have assured me that it's a simple 3-hour training that they require in order for us to transfer over to use the gradebook system. That 3 hours is something that myself and other school leaders can do, and then we would turnkey that to teaching staff. So that 3 hours could be 6 hours, that 3 hours could be, like, it all depends on how we plan to roll it out. But they feel very confident. I mean, the company, of course, is selling it on us, but they feel very confident that because it is such an easy interface, and I have seen it myself, it's a much easier interface than any of the other systems out there, that a 2-hour training would suffice just to get them rocking and rolling. Our last conversation with them, they indicated that if we were able to at least give everybody who's going to use it a 2-hour training up front, that they would be able to start the year off and use it, and then as needed, if we needed any follow-up throughout the year, but it's enough to get them their login information, and they would be able to input grades and update their pages. And then, just want to make sure.
Would there be any more cost to expanding it? Like, since we already have it.
So the only cost right now would be to pay for the professional development, because we already have the system, we already use it, we pay for it, and we have the package. So we would just have to pay for the hours of professional development to train us.
Great, thank you.
Mrs. Padera.
So my question is, the between the Administrators Plus and the Google Classroom, I think I'm clear on it, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. The Google Classroom is just something that maybe teachers might use because they're familiar with it and they like it. And Admin Plus would be something all the teachers would use. So is that going to be, because my concern is sometimes you get, you have more than one kid, or you move from one section to the other, and you're using one system, one teacher uses one system and another teacher uses another system, and we want to make it as clear and as easy as possible to get the information. So are we going to have some consistency where everybody uses Admin Plus, but maybe some teachers are also using Google Classroom because it's kind of fun and funky and things they can do?
That's a fair question, but just in trying to keep the sanity of our teachers and not overwhelming them all at once,
Right.
Admin Plus would be the standard. That would be what everyone would be expected to use.
Okay.
And Google Classroom, I'm going to continue next school year because I got a small population of teachers on it this year, and I'm going to continue next year training, and then we hope that at the end of next year, we can then make that the standard as well, too. But that, I want to spend more time getting people more acclimated and familiar, but they also have evaluation tools that are fairly new to them, and there's a lot for them to digest right now, and I just think out of fairness is not to throw too new requirements on them.
Right.
So yes, so this first year you will see some folks who are rocking and rolling with Google Classroom. They're using it proficiently because we've had the time previously this year,
Right.
and then next year I'll get another group and get them going. So you won't see as much with Google Classroom throughout the year because we're going to focus on making sure everyone uses Administrators Plus for the first year.
But all teachers will have like the basic kind of requirement.
A teacher page with, yep.
On Admin Plus, and so that'll be just additional.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Bagley-Jones?
So, thank you for this information, it's great. So I have a question about, on Edline, one of the goals when it was first implemented, which I can remember when it was posting of assignments.
Yep.
And what happens when kids are out sick, and especially if they have a significant medical illness and they're out a week, 2 weeks, I mean, it's more than just, one day out, but even one day out, they weren't able, what I hear from a lot of parents even now, they're not able to find the assignments on Edline. They're not being posted.
Exactly, and which is why it makes sense to phase it out if it's not
Right.
meeting the need we originally requested
Right,
for.
but then I don't see on Admin Plus posting of assignments, or am I missing that?
So,
I see that on Google, but I don't, right? But I don't see it on Admin.
because it wouldn't be individual assignments. What we would ask is that teachers post the overall, so like kind of a scope and sequence for the year. So you'll get an overview of what's happening. But in terms of weekly, nightly assignments, the best place for that to live is on Google Classroom, which is why we want to get everyone on board with that too. Because right now we're seeing that the teachers are not putting weekly assignments. They really are, they're doing it at the beginning and then it falls short. And that's because it's not a simple system.
And that cannot go on Admin?
It can, absolutely. So the beauty of it is because it's a place where their grades will live anyway, they're putting up assignments based on the fact that they're grading it. So it's kind of a different interface, though. It wouldn't be the full-blown assignment that says, here's the instructions, here's the link to go to, but it will have a place to identify what the work is that is expected throughout the course, because that's where they're going to then ultimately go in and put their grades in. So it's an import for them as opposed to reproducing it twice on two different places. When they put the assignment in to grade it, they can then just import it onto their page. So you'll get a sense of what it is. But in terms of going the next step, that's going to be teacher dependent. If they want to go ahead and put, they can add links to resources, to videos, and put up full-blown assignments, but that's going to be up to them. Because right now, the language of what we're asking for Edline didn't ask them to do more than, I think it was 4 links, and, there was a pretty low minimum, and so we're going to keep to that for now, just to not shake things up too much. But teachers do have the option. They have the capacity to do that on there, but we're not asking them to do more than what we were asking them to do for Edline. I just think it's going to be a smoother transition in if we keep the expectation the same, change the platform, and then as the platform becomes comfortable, then we can raise the expectation.
Okay, so can I just follow up on that?
Sure.
So I think it was John Phelan, Mary, that used to say, if you're going to expect, you have to inspect, right?
Yes.
So, and that was always an issue with Edline. Okay, we're expecting teachers to do that. In fact, Mary's put a lot of money and time into training folks over the years on Edline, But then, so I guess the question might be more to the leadership team in terms of, so how are you going to make this happen? Is there going to be professional development time allotted to this? What's the expectation for teachers
So
around
the
this?
nice thing about it is the only thing that's new for them is the platform of where they have to put things. That's why we want to keep the expectation the same. Everything they did before, they're going to post. It's just on an easier interface. So we're not changing too much. In terms of when you say training, they just need that 2 hours to understand where they're going, what website to log in and post. But they're going to be expected to post in the same format and fashion that they were expected to do before.
I hear that just, and then I'll stop, but I'm saying if the expectation isn't being met, then what happens?
Yes,
And I
that's-
guess
that's
that's back
more of
on
an
Mary.
accountability-
So that's where I'm looking at.
That it's time for us to look at Edline and look at a new updated version. Parents are asking about grades online, and so that if everyone's learning it together and it's more user-friendly, and, and somebody can't meet the expectation by just going in at the beginning of the year. That's our goal. So this is one of our priorities.
Yeah, and I think that and it's a place where it can be monitored, though. It makes it a lot easier to monitor as opposed to Edline, where I know principals had to go in and log into each individual teacher page to see if the teacher had put things up, and that's kind of tedious and long to, monitor.
Good, thank you.
Sheila, I want to give Mr. Walker a chance, and then we'll come back to you.
So you're just the messenger, so I'm not talking to you at all. This is a simple problem, but we've missed the point here. The point is that the parents are the primary customers here. It's great that we've talked to the teachers and the principals about what they'd like from Edline or what they're getting or not getting from Edline, but the parents are the primary customers here. What we promised them was a single place where they could go to get assignments and communicate with their children's teachers. That's what we promised them. So if Edline is not the right technology, okay, but this isn't solving that problem at all. And we're dancing around this issue of why teachers can't seem to get the information that we asked them to get on Edline. You're suggesting that it's a technology problem, that the site is not user-friendly. I disagree. I think we've got a compliance problem here.
Yeah, it's a combination.
And we haven't talked at all about how we plan to solve that problem. So this schedule, in my mind, is too slow and doesn't solve the primary problem. So, again, I'm not talking to you, I'm primarily talking to the leadership team. I'd like to know
I hear you.
how we're going to meet the promise that we made to parents starting in September, and
I hear you, but I do want to address that the Admin Plus parent portal will address the parents' needs in terms of communication. One of the options also is for parents to get automatic email alerts whenever new data is put in. So if a teacher is grading assignments and they put it in, the parents can get automatic emails sent to them letting them know that there's new information on their child's page. So that's a communication right there.
so what I'm suggesting is that all of the things that you have under Google Classroom, if we're talking about a one-stop shopping, then all of those have to be under Administrators Plus.
So if I can be transparent.
And I'm not buying we need to go slowly on that, because this is not rocket science.
If I can be transparent, though, I think my biggest concern about putting those requirements on that page right away is it wasn't the language of Edline previously in the contract. So it's a conversation with the union about changing the language of what teachers' requirements are. Those things are new. Those are going to be new requirements, and so the union is going to have to be on board with making it a requirement. I read the language of Edline, and it's very vague in terms of what teachers are required to put on Edline.
I'm going to pass on a collective bargaining discussion.
Good.
Ms. Varela, I yield.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, as a follow-up to both what Ms. Bagley-Jones and Mr. Walker said, is that, and I guess that is, he can yield to it, but that might be the problem. Because because you, as a parent of two kids, as a high schooler and a middle schooler, they have teachers who are incredibly tech savvy and who will go to Edline and put the weekly spelling lists on, and if they have a big assignment, like in social studies, and that you can print out the page if you have a second grader or a third grader, whatever. And if somebody is out sick, they'll know what, they won't get behind. And then you go to another teacher's page, and it's like blank. It's like, welcome to my classroom. These are my overall expectations, blanketed, vague. Exactly. And that's what Mr. Walker's talking to, of course, that parents don't want that. They want to be able to say, okay, this is tonight's homework math assignment, the spelling list, and whatever. So I guess the question is the only way to ensure that every teacher who works for us does that is because it's in the union contract that they have to do it. And if that's the issue, then that's the issue, right?
I think that's another discussion.
Yeah, it is. But so the bottom line is.
Not for public session.
Yeah, no, but I mean, at the end of it, because the big problem is just making sure that every teacher does it. That's the question.
I agree. We're providing the platform where it can be done.
Right. Okay.
Just one more thing.
Mrs. Badere.
I do think, though, just to round this out to the end, that it would be great to have a new system looked at, because it's not only clunky for the teachers. I know, as Mr. Walker said, we're talking about the customer as a parent. It is kind of clunky for the parents. And there are teachers out there doing wonderful things with technology that's been much more helpful and much more informative. I have got some of the emails that said there's more information. A progress report was just downloaded, so you click on it instead of just having to remember to check. Because I have to say, as a parent, I'm really good about checking the website at the beginning of the year and then not so much at the end of the year either. So I appreciate that you're looking at this, and like I said, I think it'll improve communication on both parts, because sometimes it's the parent that's fault that's not checking out the communication. And so if we can look at it and improve the communication, then we can look at other parts of that as well. So I really want to thank you for looking at this and improving this.
And I just have one final thing, though. I do think, an excellent point that Becky made, but I do think that if it's going to save us money to not support Edline for other systems that can already do that, I mean, to me, that's a bit of a no-brainer. And as a parent, again, in the system, I agree, Edline is very clunky. You're always forgetting your password. What is it? It changes every single year. You have one of each for kid. It's not user-friendly for the parent either. So, yeah. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Burke. Just one thing. You talked about the 2-hour training for the teachers. Have you given thought, if the district went this route, a timeline for transition? Have you given thought to that? How long the transition would take? May not have. I just.
You mean in terms of providing the training?
In terms of getting us from using Edline to using the new system.
Still working on that.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burke. We're going to move on now to the Special Education Program Review Contract Award, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Pavlicek.
Tracy Grandow is also back again to
And Tracy Grandow, our pupil personnel administrator.
answer any questions. Just briefly, you have a memo in your packet. We decided to put out a request for an invitation to bid on consultant services to do a special education program review. We put it out at the end of March, advertised it in the usual places for such bids. We received a dozen or so requests for the actual bid documents itself. We did this through town council. The bid documents themselves are a lovely package of about 90 pages. If you want a copy of it, it's a lovely bedtime reading, laying out exactly what it is that we were looking for. In the end, we got 5 submissions from bidders who are interested in getting the work from us. What we did is the bidders were asked to present 2 sealed envelopes, one with just a description of what it is they intended to do and addressing all the non-economic requirements that we put out in the bid, and the second envelope was the actual bid price. What Ms. Grandow, Karen Clasby, and I did was to go through all the non-economic proposals, rate them on qualifications that we had advertised, the plan of services, the general qualifications, the capabilities of these companies. We went through and rated each of those factors as highly advantageous, advantageous, or non-advantageous, created basically a grading grid of them. And once we had done that, we then opened the non-economic, or the economic package, which became another criteria, which we again rated as advantageous, non-advantageous, or highly advantageous, and came up with a recommendation for an award. Following that, we did follow up with reference checks on the vendor that we're going to recommend. And so you have the details in here. There were 5 vendors. We are recommending awarding the contract to PCG Education, which, although it was actually the second lowest bid on our matrix, was scored as a more fully responsive and a more advantageous total proposal. It had the highest number of highly advantageouses on all of its ratings, and so based on that, the bid number was only one of the several criteria. And in consultation with town council, we were advised that this was a recommendation we could make based on the specifications we had put in the bid. So what's before you tonight is a recommendation that the school committee award the bid for the special education consulting services to PCG Education. The amount of the bid is $38,180. We had $25,000 budgeted for this. We will come up with the remaining money from various other sources, probably some special education consulting services, probably from some other sources like that, that we will look at as sources for the remaining $13,000, but the bids ranged from one bid of $23,000, PCG was $38,000, the others were $51,000, $53,000, and $65,000, so they were considerably more. We are comfortable with PCG Education. As for their merits as a company, I'll leave that more to Ms. Grandau and Ms. Clasby, who are the special education experts. But these were the companies that fulfilled our invitation to bid, and we feel comfortable in recommending to you the bid of PCG Education.
And so with that, the floor is open. Mr. Walker.
Move that we authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with PCG Education for the purpose of performing a special education program review for an amount not to exceed $38,180.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Can I just ask a question?
Ms. Bagley-Jones.
Are you gonna talk about what is involved in the program review? Could someone just give is that what you're going to talk about?
Yes, I can address that.
It would be good for the viewing public to hear what's included in it. But do we need to hear that before we vote, or can we vote?
It's a good time to hear it.
It's a good time to hear it. Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
So
Pavlik.
it is always a good idea to periodically assess the overall programs, and it covers everything from staffing. Are we making the most efficient use of our resources? Are we covering all populations? Predicting what are the needs of the students going forward? And also looking at the various models of instruction that we have, and are we employing the best methods for that? So it covers a wide range of factors. And out of that, you first start off working with the company to develop your specific questions, even more detailed than our proposal. You submit data to them, of which the presentation earlier tonight will be very helpful, and other methods of data collection. They will conduct on-site interviews with all the stakeholders, parents, teachers, leadership team. They may administer surveys, And from all of this data that they gather, they then submit a report, a very detailed report with recommendations and a detailed plan. And they also help you figure out how to prioritize what's in the report in terms of recommendations and move forward and create an action plan.
I might add, the timeline for this, as outlined in the invitation to bid, would be some initial conversations with the district this summer, the stakeholder interviews and interviews in the fall, with the goal of a final report and a report to the school committee on the order of January to February.
Ms. Bagley-Jones.
So thank you, that was very helpful, both of you. So my follow-up question to that would be, I hear you say that they're going to have interviews with the stakeholders in the fall. When they're developing the questions with you, if their parents or the CPAC have ideas about what they want the questions to be, would they refer them to you?
Yes.
For you to then share with the company? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And they can refer them as early as August to me as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Or July. I'll be working on those questions pretty soon.
So my view of this is that it is the right choice, and I would support the recommendation. However, I am somewhat discomforted by the vague funding for the $13,180. It's not a big number, but I would appreciate if someone could make me a little more comfortable about approving the award for the amount without having an allocation or a projected allocation for that additional funding. And if anyone who can make me more comfortable with that would be welcome. Dr. Pavlicek.
We have collected some special education tuition from a student who's out of district. We earmarked a little of it for some other purpose earlier on, but we have a fair amount of that is sitting there that has not been allocated. We have money still in our Medicaid reimbursement fund. That holds a balance. Any of those are reasonable places, and the amounts of money in both of those are more than sufficient to cover $13,000.
Thank you. Any other? Mr. Watt.
So I don't want to start a specific discussion about funding, but if we're asking Dr. Pavlicek to specify where the funding would come from, then I'd be more comfortable with special ed contracted services, which I think is an appropriate expenditure under that line, rather than hitting the Medicaid reimbursement, which I think, one, is not readily available right now, and two, I think we depend on for some other more important uses. So I think, as you said, this is $13,000, so I think we have it in the SPED contracted services line, but if we're going to specify now where it comes from, then I'd like to nail that down.
If I may.
Superintendent Gormley.
I, too, would go to the special ed contracted service line. Every 2 weeks, it's good for the school committee and the public to know. We meet with the SPED department and the business department to monitor our out-of-district placements, our contractual service line, all of our SPED students incoming, outgoing, and we monitored that closely. So if we started with that expenditure in that line, we would know it was there, and we could work around our budget for the year. So if I had been asked first, that's where I, too, would have said to take it from.
So, Leroy, if you want to add that to your motion, I would certainly support it.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment to the chair.
All right.
That the overage of roughly $13,000 and $13,180 will be funded from the special ed contracted services line.
Any further discussion? All those, Dr. Donovan?
I'd briefly like to circle back to Ms. Bagley-Jones' comment regarding CPAC or any other interested parties, parents. In our conversations with them earlier in this year about this topic, they have expressed to me on several occasions their desire for increased involvement, increased transparency, increased as I said, involvement in the process going forward. So I would suggest that this is an excellent opportunity for them to come to us and for us to involve them in looking at the services that we provide.
Mr. Walker?
I think that's an excellent idea, and normally, there's a kickoff meeting with the consultant, so I think it would be perfect if you actually invited them to that kickoff meeting. I think that would set the right tone, and rather than simply having them submit ideas about questions, they could get in on the ground floor and feel like they're actually a part of the process.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
I'll be very brief and finish.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you,
Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. Tonight, before this meeting, I'd like to one more time publicly recognize, I have done in the email blast, the school committee had a reception for our retirees and for the community to join us in congratulating Mary Lou Bradley, Mary Ellen Burke, Karen Clasby, Patricia Kopetsky, Eileen Lovett, Ludmila Novoroshkin, Janet Potts, Nathan Randall, Catherine Roach, and Jean Rillo, who will all be leaving, retiring from the Milton Public Schools. We wish them health and enjoyed retirement as cumulatively they have served the Milton Public Schools for, if you put the years together, hundreds of years. We have a nice surprise. I don't know if a lot of you know. I wasn't aware that Fox 25 has a, what's it called? A zip drive show. And it's talked about in the morning, and it's talked about at night. And Friday morning, if you're at Cunningham Park between, I think, 7 and 10,
6 and 10.
6 and 10, you'll be with the 100 million Miltonites as they come to celebrate the town of Milton, and they have identified Chief Wells as their hometown hero. So I'm sure he'll join me. Anything you want to know about Chief Wells, you can find out on Channel 25, is what I've been told. Tomorrow morning is the last day of school. It's a half day for students and a full day for teachers. In my email blast, we've noted tomorrow morning and in several blasts that we will have 1,000 children at Milton High this summer for 6 weeks between all of the summer programs that are run in the town of Milton. And I'm not going to detail those for you tonight. They're all in the blast. This weekend is Milton celebrates its birthday every year, even though I don't think it is its birthday date, with this weekend and another accolade for the Copeland Family Foundation funding the fireworks. So Saturday, the 3rd annual, and I probably should let Dr. Pavlicek, you probably would be surprised to know that he's one of the party planners. Did you know that, Dr. Donahue? That he is one of the individuals for the 3rd annual Milton Music Festival and Fireworks, Saturday, local artists and artisans, from 3 in the afternoon, no,
10 at night.
Till 10 at night.
till 10 at night when the fireworks happen. Or you can stay in your home and maybe see the fireworks over Milton Hill. And then if you want to join the Celtic event all day Sunday, Chairman Zulus, you can go back to Milton Hill from, Glenn?
Well, our hometown hero will tell you it's the Celtic event. It's the-
Okay, excuse me, yes. And so, in closing, and we'll remind parents and guardians, the most important, next to safety this summer and being with your family, summer reading, but we'll have lots of spots on summer reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Gormley. And so we are nearly 3 hours in, and we have some miles to go. We're going to hearken to the Pierce production of Conrad of Bye Bye Birdie, and we're going to take a 30-second intermission while I go get a bottle of water. And I encourage everyone to stand up and take 30 seconds, and then we will come back for the chairman report. Those at home, you might want to take a minute. If you're hanging on our wards, take a minute. Here's the facilities, and I'll be right back. chairman's report. The first issue is the school year calendar follow-up discussion. The issue there was Ms. Varela had asked the superintendent at our last meeting what her view was on referring the matter of issues related to the school calendar to the policy subcommittee for review. And superintendent indicated at that time that she wanted to consider the matter and get back to us at this meeting with her views on that. So I guess that's where we are.
It's fine to send to policy for policy to look at the religious holidays.
Okay. So the question is whether this committee wants to refer issues related to the school calendar to the policy subcommittee for review and possible recommendation. So the floor is open.
Did you have your hand
I
up?
was trying to.
Oh, Mr. Walker. I thought you were pointing to someone.
Yeah.
Pointing to someone.
So just for clarity, what is it we're asking the policy committee to do?
So in my view, the school calendar, including religious holidays and snow days, this is an issue that will be with us next year. It was an issue that is with us this year, and it is an issue that will be with us next year. And my view is that we should give the policy subcommittee a broad swath of review to look at those issues and to report back to this committee by April 1st of next year. This committee will be in a position and is required by our policies to approve the calendar. So we will face these issues next year. In my view, if I am in the position next year, if I'm here next year and have to vote to approve the calendar, I would like to benefit from a deeper dive and some depth of review of this issue by a subgroup of this subcommittee. So that's so my view is, if no one else makes the motion, I would make a motion to refer issues related to the school calendar to the policy subcommittee for review, with with a report and recommendation by April 1st of next year. So that's my view of it. And if no one else makes the motion, I will.
Oh, follow up?
Sure.
So I think this is something that falls, as I said last time, something that falls squarely within the superintendent's responsibilities, and we could ask her to do the same deep dive. But I think that there are more pressing issues for the policy committee. And I thought if I made that statement, I should be prepared to give some examples. So I am. So I would suggest that the evaluation of the superintendent policy, which is woefully out of date because I think 2.5 years ago now we accepted the DESE model for the evaluation of the superintendent, and we are now utilizing that model. I think the policy should certainly reflect that model. So I would suggest to the policy committee that they could get busy on that right away. Sexual harassment is a policy that needs to be updated, reviewed and updated and distributed annually by law. I would suggest they could look at that policy. The diversity policy, I think, has not been looked at since 2006, and my reading of it suggests that it is a very good candidate for some revision. I think it would be a good idea to look at our hazing policy, since we have seen in the news several hazing issues that were deplorable. I think in light of recent events, we could look at our weapons in school policy. Given that we've changed our cash management policies based on recommendations from the consultant we engaged, I think the student fundraising activities policy is a candidate for review very quickly. Both the student discipline and disciplining students with special needs, I think, need to be updated. We were advised by counsel that the law changed with regard to discipline, and we were briefed on that, I think, last fall. And then finally, I would suggest that the policy committee could and should meet with the superintendent and the high school and middle school principal to review whether the bullying policy, and specifically the cyberbullying policy, needs to be updated, given that we've had some cyberbullying cases that were pretty serious. So before I'd ask the policy committee to look at the school calendar policy, I would suggest that they have a busy agenda, but not only a busy agenda, one that would serve us much better in the short term by having them look at those policies.
Ms. Bagley-Jones?
I think that was a very impressive list, and I think you should join the subcommittee to help us with that,
I did draw on
Mr.
my
Walker.
previous experience on the policy subcommittee, but I'll leave it to the three of you now.
Well, so we need that list.
I can provide
Okay,
it.
that's good. The calendar, and we always want to be as helpful as we can, but I don't think the calendar belongs with the policy subcommittee, only in that what I heard was about the religious holidays. But, there are also other issues, Labor Day, teacher contracts, all that. And I guess I really do feel like, and Mary, I don't need to make it more on you, but I feel like I need to follow the educational leadership's take on that, or opinion, or practice, or expertise in the school calendar versus it being in a policy. I guess I feel uncomfortable with that. Even though I understand where you're coming from and it makes sense, but there's so many other things about the school calendar that are dependent upon educational expertise versus a policy. So I'd rather see it go back to Mary and then come to all of us. I also think it's a lot on the policy subcommittee to take on this issue with there being so much discussion about it. I don't know, but I'm open to whatever.
Mrs. Padilla?
I don't think, I guess, I look at it as looking at the calendar as a whole and the issues that have come up with it this year that are not going to be probably, even if we have a really light snow year, and maybe it's not even related to snow, but looking at the calendar as a whole is something important for us to look at, because it does come to our attention and we do vote on it. So I do think it's somewhat fair to delve deeper into it before, we're looking at it a year in advance of voting on next year's calendar, instead of kind of trying to put out a fire every year and taking these 2 days off, and then we'll go another 2 days off that we'll look at. And of course, we have to talk to the administration about their expertise and use their advice as well. But if we're going to be involved in the decision-making of it, it feels a little incomplete to just vote on it at one meeting. So that's the only thing I would add to it.
I don't want to go back and forth, but can I say something else?
Ms. Bagley-Jones?
I totally agree with you. I was thinking more, is this a policy subcommittee issue? I agree totally that we need to have a lot of discussion about this outside of this so that it can be a working group. I just didn't know if it belonged to policy. But I totally agree it needs more discussion and more depth looking at it, following Mary's expertise. I definitely agree.
Well, the reason, Kristen, it would be in policy is because we do have policies that relate to the school calendar, and they require our approval, and we do have a policy that relates to religious holidays. And so that's why, at least in my judgment, the best place for this would be in policy subcommittee. That's
Sure.
my view. So, Ms. Rowe.
Yeah. Even from speaking at the last meeting, the reason why we spoke about whether we have it in policy is that no matter what, I just think because of the response, the strong response that we got from A, the religions community, and B, parents as a whole, saying they never read it and they weren't aware of it, and it was too embedded in the superintendent's email blast. I just think more research and investigation needs to happen next year, whether it's done by policy subcommittee or, as Kristen said and Leroy said, whether it's done by the administration, by the superintendent and the administration, whether it's Janet and Mary and Glenn all together, but and reaching out I don't know, asking the PTOs to roll things out and bringing attention to it, because that's basically the issue. I think we need to prove one way or the other to the parent community that the district has done a more thorough outreach, knowing that they've gone to each school and, asked for their input, so that whatever decision is ultimately made, we wouldn't be confronted with, I don't want to use the word backlash, but, a response from the parental community like we did this year that would be not advantageous. So, I too am open to either place. It's, I don't know. Can I ask the superintendent where she would prefer to have it?
Well, I think I responded at the beginning. You had asked the last time, Ms. Varela, and I said it's fine for it to go to policy. I would say also, we don't have to bring up this issue again, but you serve on the PTO presidents, and several people at this table have served on it. And on behalf of central office, we did do a tremendous amount of work with the PTO presidents. We asked them, they're always, to a person, a bellwether of how they're feeling. And so we spent 3 PTO meetings on this. So I want you to know that this was not, as I started my statement the last time, a decision I made lightly. We did a lot of investigation with other districts. We're not going to belabor this now, what districts made the change. But as I started, when we started, I said it's fine with me for policy to look at it. But the irony, Ms. Padera advocating for policy, I don't think anybody realizes that when Labor Day is, to park testing, to other holidays, the number of factors that go into the school calendar are huge.
Right.
One quick example, people will quick to say, why don't you make a vacation in March and eliminate April and February? But what they don't understand is now with park testing, you can't do that. So it's a lot more than, it's not an arbitrary decision.
Well, that's absolutely right. And the other thing I would say is that typically those decisions and those reviews are not mutually exclusive. Typically on those issues, the administration has a recommendation, and many times when there's an issue, it is referred, or a subcommittee takes a review of those issues as well. And on the policy subcommittee, typically, the assistant superintendent for business or the superintendent sit in on those meetings and lend their expertise. And so, from my perspective, it would be helpful in making a decision, which we need to make next year on an issue that is not going away.
Right.
So that's my view. So, Ms. Varela.
As someone who was on PTO leadership and who attended those meetings, I have to say that on behalf of all the PTOs from the 4 schools and Pierce, I want to say maybe shame on us, because we represent the school as a whole, yes. And Superintendent Gormley did ask, many times our gut reaction, our feel, like, how do you feel, your school would react to that? But I know for certain that there was not a thorough survey done at Pierce or a thorough survey done at Cunningham. You know what I mean? It was much more of the gut reaction of the leadership team. And I think that perhaps we were at fault, that maybe we should have done a more thorough survey through PTO shout-outs, or even alerting them that the survey was going to be in the superintendent's report, to please look for it. Just more advocating on the PTO's part of the awareness. That's all I'm saying. So
these would be all things that could be reviewed, certainly. So anyway, Dr. Donahue.
So to throw in my 2 cents to make the full dollar, it seems from listening to the recent conversations that there have been some very valid suggestions about what the policy subcommittee should undertake by Member Walker, and I think those are quite valid and quite important. And Member Zulus has expressed a similar desire for us to take a look at this, and I see no reason why the policy committee, we're going to have a full plate, and what's one more topic, quite frankly. But I would not necessarily want to rush the process. We do have until essentially early April of next year, so I think it might make a lot of sense for, as Mr. Walker suggested, to permit the administration to look into this issue and come back to the policy subcommittee with some thoughts, and we can take it up in the course of the next 8 months or so. See how that relates to our policies regarding the school calendar, and have something by next spring.
Like that.
So given that, I guess I'll go ahead and move that we refer the matter to the policy subcommittee for review, and with an idea that they will report out and recommend by April 1st of next year, which should give them plenty of time to do that. Ms. Bagley-Jones?
But there was another part of that.
I don't think that was Mr. Donahue's motion, but you can tell me.
Well, I don't know if he made a motion. Did you
I don't think
make?
that was his suggestion.
Well, okay, that's fine. I was making a motion, but go ahead, Kevin, if you're.
Well, so I would like to take this up. I don't know from a procedural standpoint if it matters that the matter is referred to us directly from the school committee now, or if it's brought to us by the superintendent in some weeks or some months. I'm open to either course of action. I'm open to further suggestions.
Okay, Ms. Bagley-Jones.
I don't want to cut you off, but I'm much more comfortable with it going first to the superintendent and then the policy subcommittee looking at that initially. I wanted to start with Mary, like Kevin said. That's what he was saying, right?
Yes.
Right.
Start with the superintendent and then
Right.
go to policy with the superintendent.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
come back here with that. So
Okay.
we've done due diligence on every level.
Mr. Walker?
Might I offer a friendly amendment?
The motion wasn't seconded yet, so we don't have a
That's
motion
true.
on the floor.
That's true.
So,
Was
so
the
you
motion.
can, the motion hasn't been seconded, so Mr. Walker, I can either proceed with the motion and see if I get a second, and then you can offer a friendly amendment, or you can go ahead and offer a motion, and maybe we'll see if we get a second.
Well, let's try that. I'd like to move that the school committee direct the superintendent to do research related to the school calendar as directed by the school committee, which means that school committee members can be specific with the superintendent about what types of outreach and other matters need to be researched, and that the superintendent should report back to the policy subcommittee with the results of that research by March 1st next year.
And then if I could offer a friendly, well, I'll second the motion, and I'll offer, go ahead, Ms. Bagley-Jones.
Is this sausage being made?
It really is. Go ahead.
No. I just wanted to ask a friendly amendment. Could it say that we request the superintendent to do it versus direct?
Absolutely.
Small, little wording. That's all I want.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I would offer the friendly amendment that after receiving such, did you call it a report from the superintendent?
Yes.
That the policy subcommittee then report to this committee.
Yes.
With a recommendation.
And let's try this. I'd say the policy subcommittee should determine, based on the results of that research, whether it needs to revise the superintendent's recommendation or make the superintendent's recommendation directly to the school committee. That is to say, maybe they may not have to do anything. There may not be anything left to research, but if there is, then they should do that work.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Lori, is, if it's just report on the issue, they can say there's no report. There's nothing to report on.
All right, so give me that again.
And then after receiving I believe your words were the review results of research from the superintendent, that the policy subcommittee then report to this committee with a recommendation, if any, by April 1st.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion that has been seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Fabulous. Unanimous. Wonderful.
You need another break?
All right. Yes, let's stretch for another 30 seconds. All right, on to the Strategic Issue Committee package. We do not have a package for you tonight. I had discussions with Kevin this week about possible membership of the committee and what the committee might do, and Kevin has some thoughts, and I thought what we might do, we didn't get to the point where we could get you something in writing with time to deliberate and consider it. So if I'd ask Kevin to report on his thoughts, and then if we have a brief discussion, and then at the next meeting, we'll have a written recommendation, and take the views of the committee into consideration with that recommendation on membership, et cetera.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So two general topics. We spent some time at the last meeting, or perhaps it was the meeting before, generally discussing the charge to the subcommittee, which we'll get into in just another minute. And then the other topic that we discussed at moderate length was the composition of the subcommittee and thoughts about who best, in terms of different populations, to put on the subcommittee. So my thoughts regarding the charge, it seemed, as I recall, that we had something of a settled charge that was not quite a strategic plan committee where we were looking at the district as a whole and coming up with a plan, something of the likes we saw from outside, but where we reviewed some of the strategic plans, small s, small p, that have gone on previously in terms of our 5-year capital budget cycle, and other, the advancement initiative that we're currently in the middle of, and look at the goals and directives for those, and then try and identify, as the purpose of this committee, areas that were outside of that planning process, previous planning processes, with a goal for seeing where, or directing where, the district would be in 3 to 5 years, and setting some new goals to work alongside those. So that was, as my understanding, the charge, and I'm happy to entertain some more discussion about that. And then the other part of the conversation that we had previously was membership, and I think Ms. Varela had some excellent ideas about involving different people, different groups on the committee. I'll start off the conversation with my thoughts on the committee. What I would like to see, I would like to see a committee that is large enough that we have a variety of points of view and a variety of knowledge bases that we can draw from natively without necessarily having to go out and interview different groups, although I think that would be important to the committee's work. But I would like to have a committee that is small enough that we have a workable quorum. Something more on the order of 5 or 6 as opposed to 12 or 13. And my preliminary thoughts on that at the moment were something along the lines of 2 school committee members, a single member of the administration, several teachers and several parents, maybe 4 teachers, 3 educators, something along those lines. Not necessarily directing the committee, the subcommittee, to specifically say you need a high school parent, you need a middle school parent, you need an elementary school parent, but with the idea that sort of diversity of opinion would be something that would be one of the things looked for when populating the subcommittee. And same thing with educators, not necessarily that you'd want, a principal and a math teacher and an English teacher or a foreign language teacher or something like that, but that you would look for a diversity of background and diversity of field when you're putting together the subcommittee. So those are my thoughts over the past 2 weeks. I'm happy to receive other thoughts.
So just before we go further, let me just articulate what the motion was on the 20th. which in the motion that was approved was to create a strategic issues committee, the purpose of which is to identify key strategic issues which are not currently being addressed and creating a plan integrating current goals and objectives that are in place with new strategic issues that are identified. That was the motion according to our draft minutes, and I think
it
that's
was.
fairly accurate.
It is.
And so that was the motion that was approved. So, anything further? The hour is late, so perhaps it's incumbent on Kevin and myself to put together a written package for you, and we'll put it up for discussion and vote at the next meeting. All right, fair enough. Onward we go. Policy Subcommittee report. We don't have a Policy Subcommittee report, I believe, at this point. What we have is a policy review. The administration asked us at the last meeting to consider a new residency policy. We did not at that time have a draft of the new residency policy. We now have a draft of that residency policy that you received. This would be a replacement of our existing policy, JFAA, and perhaps the superintendent can just, if she wishes, lay out the origins of the draft that you have and what it seeks to accomplish.
Working on our residency, I referred to this at the last school committee meeting when we had our yearly annual update on residency. The idea has been presented to us internally and externally within the community to have all students going from grades 5 to 6 and students going from 8 to 9 have their families re-register. Last summer, what we did, we had all the students who live in Milton who go to Blue Hills Regional. Once those students go off to Blue Hills Regional High School, we have no way to know if during their high school career they've moved out of Milton. We continue to pay their tuition. And so we have children at the agricultural school, Blue Hills Regional, and students in out-of-district placements. So this is our policy. With that addition, we're prepared, if you pass this tonight, to communicate to the parents and to set up summer hours, including evening hours with our residency coordinator, widely publish those days and hours that families can go online to fill out the packet and to come in during the summer months, 2 full months, again with evening sessions to re-register. This has been an idea that's been talked about for the last 2 years, and we think that this year would be appropriate. Other districts do this. They choose different grades, and we think at those entrance grades would be an outstanding time to have students re-register.
Ms. Beckley-Jones.
So the change is in the second paragraph where it says students who are enrolled in the Milton Public Schools. Is that the change? And then
yes,
the educational program outside of the
absolutely.
Okay, so those are the changes.
Actually, Kristen, it is in language a wholesale change to the existing policy, and there are some other differences as well. And I tried to do a red line today, but was unable to because the existing policy is in PDF, and I just didn't have time to do the conversion. But there are some other changes. The definition of residence is included, and there is an issue, I think, and I apologize for not raising it until I reviewed it today. In the third sentence, it says, persons who are found to temporarily reside in the town of Milton for the purpose of attending public schools in the town of Milton may be dismissed immediately from the Milton Public Schools, and et cetera, and they may be liable for the tuition. It seems to me that sentence is too restrictive because it just gives the schools the right to dismiss persons who are found temporarily to reside in the town of Milton. It seems to me there may be persons who are not temporarily residing in the town of Milton who this action may need to be taken against it. And that kind of restriction wasn't in the the original policy. And so I think we need to work a little bit on the language on that. At least it's my judgment that we need to. I could be wrong, but that's my judgment. And so my question is, how critical is it that we approve this policy tonight, given what I think is a potential problem with the language, that I certainly would like to work on and get the blessing from council as well. So I guess the question is there an issue there? And then how critical is it for us to vote on this tonight if there is an issue there?
Well, first of all, the legal counsel who advises us on residency wrote the policy, who deals with us. Right. We can wait until you have a meeting the first week of July.
Right.
We can wait until that meeting.
Right. Ms. Bagley-Jones.
And I know the policy subcommittee, we're trying to find a date and we will get going, but I thought we'd gotten into the practice of putting in yellow the changes whenever we look at a new, is that what you meant by that?
That's what I meant by red line.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I think that that's, given how important this policy is on both sensitivity as well as the reality of what we need to do around residency, I would feel more comfortable if I was really clear about what the exact
And
changes are.
we can have it redlined, and we'll do that for the first week. But I'm going to again tell you that the lawyer that we work with wrote this policy. There aren't many policies that we have our legal counsel directly write, and she and another lawyer who we work with prepared this. We can redline it for you. We can explain the changes. This is her recommendation.
Mr. Walker.
What was that?
So, I appreciate that this has been reviewed by council. Our chair is also council. I happen to agree with you on this one. I think that the language is too restrictive and limits us in a way that is not helpful. So, with all due respect to outside counsel, I would look for language that is more in line with the recommendation you made.
It's a very affirmative point.
With sound effects.
Ms. Varela.
Yeah, I also agree that that the language on what residency is too vague, too blanketed, and can be interpreted. I don't know. The whole part from temporary residents in the town of Milton for the purpose of attending Milton Public Schools should not be considered residency. Persons who are found temporarily residing in the town of Milton for the purpose of attending the schools in the town of Milton may be dismissed immediately. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like it. So, I agree.
I think we'll the policy subcommittee would have a chance over the next 2 weeks if they to maybe take a look at it. We'll get it redlined. We'll raise the concern that Mr. Walker and I have articulated with the administration and council, and any other concerns, and your concerns as well, Sheila, on that definition. Any other things, Mr. Walker?
Just one more thing I think would be helpful for the policy subcommittee to highlight within the policy which language is taken directly from the statute and which language is policy language that we've drafted.
What?
Those definitions.
Are in the law? Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the policy? So we will have a red line. We'll have some feedback, and we will be teed up to vote on the 8th. So actually, this can constitute a first reading, so we can follow our policy adoption policy, and so this can constitute our first reading of this policy, and we can have a second reading on the 8th and get it approved. Anything else on this? Thank you. Finance Subcommittee report.
Approval of the vendor warrant. Dr. Pawlicek, if you would give me the amount, I'll make the motion.
We actually have three.
Three?
We had one at our last meeting that we didn't vote at the time because we had just gotten it that night.
That's
We
correct.
had one from last week and we have one from tonight.
And I believe I've signed the last two, is that correct? Yeah. Okay, good.
So from 2 weeks ago, warrant number 50, June 11th, was in the amount of $93,546.12. from last week, warrant number 51, or do you want to do
Why
them
don't we-
serially, or?
Why don't we take, you want to take them serially, or?
I'd like to get them all down
Okay,
first, and then,
Warrant number 51, dated June 18th, in the amount of $442,177.14. And warrant 52, dated June 25th, which will be here shortly, in the amount of $315,908.20.
so move, I don't like this mic. Move approval of the warrant number 50 in the amount of $93,546.12.
Second.
It's a sign to go home.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Move approval of warrant number 51 in the amount of $442,177.14.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Move approval of warrant number 52 in the amount of $315,908.20.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm just going to abstain on this one because I haven't had a chance to see it as yet. So any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstention, 501 with Zulus abstaining.
Next, we have a job description for the K-12 math director, and we lost the individual who was the high school math department head, and we also lost the middle school math coordinator. Thanks to the genius of the superintendent, the assistant superintendents, we've come up with a creative solution, which is to create a K through 12 math director, which will address both the high school and middle school vacancies and will coordinate with the elementary coordinators. We think this is a fabulous solution, and by the way, based on an analysis that Dr. Pavlicek did for us, there is a net savings in terms of the salary. So what we're asking for school committee approval on is the title, since we're creating a new position. So I move approval of the new K through 12 math director position.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Varela?
Do the other disciplines have a K-12, or does it vary as far as the directors?
It varies. World language is K-12. The arts is K-12. PE, health director is K-12.
Okay. All right.
Technology is K-12.
Any further discussion? Dr. Donahue?
As a matter of housekeeping, the current positions that we're replacing with a single one, should we keep them as current positions, or should we eliminate those?
We keep the titles because they're part of the collective bargaining agreement, and in the event that we might want to use those at some future date, we retain them on the schedule of titles.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Full-day kindergarten grant update. Dr. Pavlicek, anything?
It's the same update as last time, except what you have seen is that they have extended the deadline for House Ways and, the House Senate Conference Committee to July 14th. So this will likely crawl on for a little while longer.
Which gives me more cause for concern. Just an editorial comment.
Okay. All set. Given the late hour, unless there's any burning desire among the members to approve minutes, I would suggest we defer that until the next meeting.
Second.
Without objection? Without objection. If there's no objection, we'll just do it. Old business, citizen speak topic response. I don't believe we have anything there. Next meeting agenda items. you can certainly feel free to email me any thoughts that you have on that as well. Citizen speak, nobody left. And so now we have a couple of matters for executive session. So I will move to enter executive session for the purpose of conducting strategy sessions in preparation of negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations, or collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the discussion of which in open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of this public body. And so, and we will not reconvene in open session after the end of the executive session. So if you've got all that.
Did you say MEA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Collective bargaining and non-union. So if you've got all that, we need to do a roll call vote. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walker. The motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Varela?
No.
No.
Yes.
Well,
Sorry,
do you want to go into executive session?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm
All
sorry,
right.
I'm blanking
Ms.
out.
Bagley-Jones?
10:40.
Well,
Yes.
yes. Mr. Zulish, yes. Ms. Padera?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Donahue?
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned for executive session.
Except Ms. Varela, so no.
We're adjourned for executive session.